does have the C2 car of Manuel Sanchez in front of him to pass. So that will be the first C2 class car that they will be passing. Ica is going back up the lead and has started to use the guns good laps once again, and now he's up in amongst some of the C3 guys. Just in front of him at the moment is Patrick Swift, and in front of him is Andreas Olberg. So he's catching up to the leaders in that class, and let's see how he deals with that. But he's still the man to beat at this point in time, though.
Definitely. And I have to apologize if we have a few technical gremlins here. I'm not sure if we have sound or not. If you can't hear us, awesome. Although our director seems to have been Stefan Overgaard, he might be dealing with some of those technical issues. We'll keep you updated. Hopefully we can get everything sorted out for you. But in the meantime, our top leaders in each class, Iker Estefania leading in HPD, Stefan Overgaard is our leader in C2, and Andreas Allmansberger, we haven't touched on C3 yet, is leading in C3 with only a slight gap over Patrick Pitchler in second. So, and now we can see Andreas Allmansberger on the screen. So maybe we have woken up our director there. And wow, just look at the traffic here today, Brian. It's going to be a mess in some portions of this course.
Yeah, and I was just thinking that with sound. Well, excuse me, folks. It sounds like our sound is back now, so we apologize again for those gremlins if we have inconvenienced at any case. But back to what I was gonna say. Diego Falcomer's in the pits, and I saw Jan Ruling back in the pits, and now I'm seeing another HPD come in. So it looks like traffic's already becoming an issue with drivers coming in and out of the racing surface. I was wondering what was going on with Jan because he looked like he was going extremely slow, but he was off, I believe, earlier in the race. That might be the case there, letting all the Corvettes by so they can continue the race. Right now, though, I'm going to have to say Stefan Overgaard is definitely looking very good today. He's been consistent and had no issues whatsoever. So right now, it's all about just managing that traffic and staying clean. And if they want to make it to the 1 hour mark, and then talk more about pit strategies later on.
Now, I'm not sure if you mentioned it in there. I'm sorry, I had to check on a few things. But Diego Falcomer was in the pits. He got bumped, interestingly, by an HPD. I believe that was Gregory Caritas. So we might see a black flag. There are live marshals in this race, and it is very frowned upon for drivers to make interclass contact, especially if you're a newcomer. They do not go lightly on guys. That's for sure. They try and enforce clean racing. And I was going to say, Brian, excuse me, that one of the things that the marshals were talking about before the race was patience. Patience is going to be key. We've got realistic weather, which is a bit tricky for these guys, and combine that with the course that guys just really need to kind of give and take with it being such a long race. They're going to get opportunities down the line, and they can't be too anxious at this point.
Yeah, and I just want to go back real quick, Joe. Gregory Caritas has already gotten his black flag for avoidable contact on lap 6, so that might be what we were talking about. But I want to go back to the battle now for the lead in the C2 class. Stefan Overgaard is now under attack by David DeRoche as he's closed that gap up quite a bit. Nacho Lamorti is not too far behind as well. So it looks like right now there's a little bit of action forming here in the C2 class.
Absolutely, and since you're just joining us, and we apologize for our no sound earlier on, as I was saying, Iker Estefania leading, Stefan Overgaard leading in C2, and then Andreas Allmansberger leading in C3. Also, since you didn't hear us, you didn't get to have us listen to us explain that João Vaz started from the pits for failing to put on a qualifying time, so that's why he was so uncharacteristically far back. But in the meantime, David DeRoche got a much better exit, coming out of 5, challenging for the lead. And C2 class, he's looking to the outside, coming into 6 as Stefan Overgaard defends. He's going to need that win if he wants the championship, and it looks like he's able to hold on this time. Let's see what he can do out of the critical turn 7.
Yeah, it looked like Overgaard got a better exit that time, of course, being on that inside line. It's kind of a deceiving corner. It gets wider as you go out. So right now, Stefan Overgaard's in good shape. But right now, also, Nacho Lamorti's drafting David DeRoche. So that's going to push those two cars behind Stefan a little bit faster down the hill. So it's going to be up to Stefan to try and defend here. David DeRoche peaks on the outside, but has no room to make that kind of turn into the chicane. So he's going to have to settle back and go into second place for one more lap, it appears. The main passing zone being out of that turn, I think it's 7, going down the long straight. So right now, everyone's going to hold their positions for another lap.
And you can see Nacho Lamorte at the back of that train. He's one of the guys that we've seen in the past is quite fast. He's a bit of a newer driver in the series, only came in about halfway through the season, but has really proven himself to be a threat. And I'm wondering if he's able to maybe do something today. I know he did very well at Sonoma some weeks ago. So we'll see how he favors yet another hilly and twisty track.
Yeah, and it looks like the HPD traffic's coming through now. Manuel Sanchez, Kevin O'Keefe, David Costello, and Albert Daneling have all been passed for one lap down on the overall leader. So it looks like the traffic's being very consistent and fast today getting around these cars, which will be good for the overall battles in each class. If everyone just uses their head and lets the HPD traffic by, that will be the key to the race, I think, with the narrowness of some of these corners.
Just a quick update, Andreas Allmansberger is still leading in C3, and I think we had an off. Oh, I see Kevin O'Keefe had a moment. Oh, he actually made contact. And this looks to be about maybe a minute ago that he ran into David Costello into turn 1, so C2 class seeing some action as well. Unfortunately, not the kind they'd like. And we're actually watching the replay now as we see Kevin O'Keefe coming around that final corner. Down the front stretch, here we go as he comes up on Costello, that red and white car ahead of him, and takes a look into the inside and just touches him. And you can see that's a very fast first corner there, Brian, and there's really not much space to try and catch it. Kevin got a little lucky, but Costello I don't think was nearly as lucky as he actually made contact with the wall. You can see there.
Yeah, and you know, I don't want to dog Kevin O'Keefe. He's a good guy in the racing community, and he's a very quick driver when he gets time to practice. But that was kind of just one of those things he could have avoided. I would be surprised if he doesn't get a black flag there, as we now see him trying to go down pit road. Too early in the race for that kind of overtaking move, Joe.
And we're getting word that there was a warning to Didier for his incident earlier. That is the HPD driver who I believe ran into, I want to say it was Diago. Yes, it was, earlier on coming out of turn 5. So already some new guys getting a taste of how strict they can be around here. But it's a good kind of strict, Richard.
Yes, indeed. I like the management of the series. It's been great throughout. And you know, the administrators are very, very quick to jump on any bad behavior of any type. In our C1 class here, we've had a couple of changes in the order. Ika Estefania still leads, but Robert Tinsley, in a very good move on Lars Conrad, moved into second place. Lars Conrad himself moved past Nicholas Pomerad a few laps back into third place. And Mark Markey, we have Brian wanting to say something. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm sorry, Richard. Our C2 race leader is off the track. He's back on now. Excuse me, but you can see the flurry of cars trying to get around him as he comes back up to speed. He was coming out of the kink at the top of turn 2 and 3 and just completely lost the car into the grass. He was able to keep it off the wall, and there is no damage, but right now with all the traffic slowing him down, there will be no way for him to catch up until they all pass. So right now, Stefan Overgaard made one of his crucial mistakes that we've seen from time to time. Unfortunately, that just took him out of the lead and gives David DeRoche now a good firm standing ground for the lead position there. So sorry, Richard, to interrupt you, but that was a huge development in this race.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you did. I can report that everything is kind of single file at this point. Ika Estefania is still leading, as we mentioned. And Robert Tinsley a fair way back at this stage, coming through traffic at this point in time through the C2 class drivers. So at this point we can move to some other point, Joe, because this is single file right now.
Yeah, and we saw on our screen that we're now looking at Nacho Lamorte, our second place driver, trying to hunt down David DeRoche, who's moved up into the lead. And we watched as Stefan Overgaard last lap really just got absolutely mobbed with his rhythm getting ruined and everybody, you know, trying to get his speed back. And that was all kicked off by making a mistake coming out of 4. Looked like he just got a little bit on the power too quickly there, Brian.
Yeah, and that was very uncharacteristic for that for the driver Stefan Overgaard, because we've seen from time to time how consistent he can be. But you know, you were talking about that realistic weather earlier, Joe. You gotta think that's playing a huge factor in some of the mistakes we've seen so far in this race. Even though we're only about 18 minutes in. So right now, I think everyone's just trying to despite that frustration, it's very difficult to manage this track as it is, and now you add all of these cars and variable weather, it just makes it that much more harder for each driver. So hopefully Stefan isn't too put off by that and get back in his rhythm. There's a long ways to go before the end of the race. I do want to add in though, Joe, that Kevin O'Keefe was black flagged for avoidable contact on lap 10. So right now that was actually seen and dealt with. Kevin O'Keefe will be coming in for the pits.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was just about to bring that up, but we do have some action going on in HPDs as well. Sounds like we had some action between Mark Muckey and one of the Pomerade brothers, or at least I apologize if they are not brothers. They seem to be related, possibly. And also Vaz also took Sylvain Pomerade. So Vaz now up into 6th and making
Well, guys, can I
continuous
break
progress.
in here? Can I please break in here? We just missed the pass of Mark Muckey on Nicholas Pomerade. Nicholas made a mistake coming into turn number 5, and it was an easy pass in the end for Mark Muckey, who moves up 1 spot into 4th right now.
And Mark Muckey's one of those guys that's really been coming to the fore since the start of this season. At first, it was just a few podiums here and there, really proving that his consistency comes to his advantage in a series like this. But then, a little bit later at Barber, finally he was able to make it happen and finally won a race at Barber a few races ago. So he is not one to turn a blind eye to. You've got to watch out, especially in a long race like this with a very difficult course and a lot of traffic, that he could maybe possibly be a little bit farther up down the line, as he tends to make fewer mistakes and get into less trouble than other people. But Mark Muckey up into 4th now.
Guys, I want to jump in real quick.
Just checking in with João Vaz. Sorry, Brian. João Vaz going extremely slowly. In fact, off track at the moment, Joe. João Vaz stopping his car. Not quite sure what happened there. We'll have to get a replay. He has now taken the tow.
He's had an accident. We're looking at the replay right now. He's heading down the backstretch. His car looks whole here, but it was into turn 1. We're going to get to it soon. And it was with a C3 car, an MP4, and that was, let me check, Lob St. Jordan.
Yeah, Joe, it was Lob St. Jordan and João Vaz, I believe, that were involved there. It looks like Lobsang didn't even see him and turned right into him as they were both going to turn 1. Of course, the MP4 didn't hit the wall as hard as Vaz did, but Vaz is going to be having a bad day as it looks like his rear suspension and wing might be in trouble. So right now, Lobsang, I believe he's a new driver in this series. I don't remember his name on the track at all, but that was kind of a no-brain effort. Let the HPD go and then turn in, and that just kind of went the opposite. So unfortunately, Lobsang Jordan is now black flag for avoidable contact and will be coming in with the contact with João Vaz, and that's on lap 14.
And you can see João Vaz has actually exited the car. I'm not sure if he's coming back. I do not see him sitting in the pits. I think his day is done. It's an unfortunate way to end his championship run. He did secure the championship last race, but still sad to see. Especially, I was hoping for that fantastic run through that he was just kicking off. We're only 17 laps into this thing, and we've still got 2.5 hours left to go. Sad to see him go so early.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate for our championship leader, I should say, our championship winner, João Vaz. But on the other hand, his day is done. No fault of his. He can relax now and have a bit of a sip of his favorite brew and just watch the others.
Absolutely. Quick mention, if you would like to contact us during the race, you can ask us questions, leave us comments, various things. As we see a car off track, that was a C3 car, not sure who that was. But you can contact us at GSR channel. Also, you can follow the EnduroPro series at EnduroPro series. You can see them on your screen now up in the corner on the left. Don't forget to follow both of us and leave us questions and comments. We love to hear it. We've got 3 hours to fill, so we can always use some input from you guys and hear what you think about certain incidents. Let us know who you think's at fault in some of these situations. We'd love to hear people's opinions. Meanwhile, just to keep you updated, Iker Estefania still leading in C1. David DeRoche is our leader after overtaking him from a mistake on Stefan Overgaard in C2. And Andreas Almensberger still the leader in C3. And let's jump over to that because Patrick Pitchler...
Action coming, Mark Muckey coming up on Nicholas Pomerade, goes to the inside. He's going to get it done. Nicholas thinks about coming back at him, then decides against it. That's coming into the chicane, coming over the crest now, approaching the start finish. Mark Mucky moves up one position.
That was an excellent catch. We actually saw that one on screen, Richard, and good stuff from Mark Mucky. Like I was saying early, you really just cannot count him out, although I believe that was to try and get a place back because he was in fourth, so Pomerade seems to have repassed him at some point. But I want to jump over to the C3 class now that we've witnessed that, because Pitchler was trying to run down Almensberger, which he is teammates with, and lost just a little bit of ground. But they also have João Vaz, the guy who has been dominating this series, just behind him. And you can see just... Oh, I'm sorry, thank you, João Cardojo. And we had a car off behind them. That was Lars Conrad in the HPDs, who I think we saw just a bit in the screen, went off and is back on without incident. Lost a couple positions, though. And you can see him about to lose another one as he's got Sylvain Pomerade trying to get by him.
Correct. And of course, Mark Mucky got an easy pass there, moved into third position now. Sylvain Pomerade coming up on his on Lars Conrad. Lars Conrad back up to speed now. It takes a little while to get your confidence back and to get the power down once again, but it looks like he's back up to speed. Sylvain Pomerade falling back just a little bit from him, but Lars now in fifth place. Nicholas Pomerade is in fourth place, just behind Mark Mucky, who's caught up in a bit of traffic at this point, coming through the S's, which can be a slow progress if you catch some slower cars, because that's a very difficult area to pass in. You have to wait through turn 5, and then he can put the fantastic power down in that HPD and get past that C3 car, as does Nicholas Pomerade. But now Mark Mucky comes up again to a slower car, and I believe that may well be Patrick Pilcher's Pickler. So we are getting these HPDs coming up to the leaders of the C3 for the second time.
And we've been sitting on with Sylvain Pomerade as we weaved through the S's, and you could see how patient they were having to be behind that MP4. That was Tom Valentini sitting in fourth place in his class, still following right now as we are on board with Sylvain Pomerade behind Lars Conrad. And now we've hopped off once again, held up just a little bit, and I believe that's João Cardojo that they were heading by there. Yes. So these guys doing a very good job early on with 2.5 hours left to go in this race, not even close to being a small portion of the way through this thing. And wow, just look at that. Even more traffic now. Now they are on top of Patrick Pitchler, who is in second place. And this is a battle these guys don't want to interrupt too much here, as this is for first place. You can see just ahead of him his teammate Andreas Almensberger leading the way as they head through the S's. They're going to get an opportunity as they get a good launch out of here. Whoa, and Conrad obviously dodging left to try and get around. He's going to have to weave through more of them as even the MP4s are coming on traffic of their own class.
Yeah, that's correct. And Lars Conrad making heavy weather of passing these C3s, but just being careful because it is a very long race, as you mentioned. And behind him, Sylvain Pomerade having exactly the same problem. So Sylvain has not been able to capitalize on any of that through the traffic there. These guys obviously have been slowed up. And so the nearest HPD to them as they come through the chicane, the nearest HPD to them is, in fact, Nicholas Pomerade, who's just about to enter turn 1.
And you could see on the screen just behind them Diego Falcomer, who is the car being lapped in his own class in C3. Andreas Almensberger had a bit of an interesting moment because they both almost went to the grass with them going 3 wide with those HPDs coming through. But those three are now, the top 3 in the C3 class have now gone through as we watch Andreas Almensberger try to navigate that tricky turn 2, 3, 4, and now into the S's. Just behind him, João Cardojo and Patrick Pitchler have made it through that traffic, but they've dropped quite a bit of time, so that battle seems to have gone off. Let's look elsewhere and see where we can find ourselves a nice little battle. And actually, let's go back to Lars Conrad and Sylvain Pomerade, because Lars made a bad mistake coming out of 7, and this is giving Sylvain an opportunity.
Yes, indeed. Sylvain is on the outside though, and Lars on the inside, and Sylvain decides to tuck in behind Lars at this point in time. and they go down single file into the chicane. Lars Conrad, very brave through the chicane there, actually gains a fraction of time on, in fact, a lot of time now on Sylvain Pomerad, and shoots away going into into the last turn just before the start finish, and Sylvain has to do it all over again.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised because Lars had a terrible exit out of 6. Or I'm sorry, out of 7, and that really should have just made it a slam dunk for Sylvain, but I'm not sure if they have differing aero packages or differing gearing or something on these cars, because he just couldn't seem to make ground, or he just maybe backed out of it. But interesting move. I'll have to keep an eye on that. But right now, Lars is making good on, like you said, getting better exits out of these corners and really stretching that gap.
Yeah, you may well be right there, Joe. They may be running different aero packages. Sylvain may be running much less of a wing, which kind of loses some grip, particularly through some of these turns. He'll have the speed going down the straightaway as you see him in the draft and just catching up a little bit to Lars Conrad. But coming through those turns, as you'll see now coming through the chicane, that Lars will shoot away as he does right now, and that may well be the extra downforce that he's got.
Well, meanwhile, it sounds like stuff has been going on in C2. It sounds like somebody has gone into the pits. Brian, what have you got?
Well, there's some speculation that Manuel Sanchez was coming down pit road. I didn't see why he was in the first place, but even with that pit road stop, he's moved up to 6th place. Down back down to 7th now as David Costello passes him. Kevin O'Keefe has been in there ever since his black flag. He's down 8 laps, so I think his day is pretty much done. Even if he comes back out, that's a long ways to go to get to the front of the line. David DeRoche is still under attack by Nacho Lamorti. It seems like every time Nacho gets a run on David, traffic breaks it up, so Nacho does have his hands full. And Yuka Suvati, he's been a little ways back with Stefan Overgaard somewhere in the distance behind him, running consistent races, but it hasn't really had much of a bite on the lead. So right now, everyone in the C2 class is still pretty much in the same order, except for the mystery pit stop by Manuel Sanchez. It could be that he deployed an alternative strategy, but I'm guessing he had an off somewhere. I just want to make sure his car is all right, as we're only about a half hour into this race. It seems a little too early for the Corvettes to pit right now.
Yeah, normally they can make it, I believe, about 50 minutes, I want to say, in these cars or thereabouts. So it's, yeah, you're right. It's just a little early for him to start employing strategy like that. But we will see strategy come into play with this being a 3-hour-long race that guys will have to figure out when is an opportune time, especially if they find themselves getting caught up by traffic. One of the things you mentioned, a few guys that have been put out or seem to be getting repairs. Jan Ruling seems to be out. Diogo Falcomer is sitting in second to last. However, he's still out there despite being 14 laps down. Good to see him trudging on, knowing he's still got a lot of race to go. And as you said, Kevin O'Keefe still getting repairs done. But those seem to be the only 3 cars that have been affected recently by some misfortune. We will keep you updated as cars start to drop out. It is a race of attrition with it being so long and being such a difficult track. Currently, we are watching Patrick Pitchler, who is our second place driver in C3. He is still holding on to Andreas Allmensberger. As you can expect, it's a bit of an ebb and flow in each of these classes, so traffic coming into play here and there. Not far behind, though, João Cardojo, who is fighting Patrick Pitchler in the championship. This is another one where it should be easy for Cardojo to come home with the championship. It is not completely over. He has, 32 points ahead of Pitchler. So Pitchler has to score 33 points or more to win the championship, since Cardojo has more wins than Pitchler does. So he has to be ahead on points. And with 35 points up for a win, once again, Pitchler is going to have to win this race and Cardojo not score anything at all for the championship to trade hands. And that does include drop weeks with these guys, as they do get 2 drop weeks. But interesting developments, and it's gonna become more clear as the race goes on as to who is going to be able to run home with it. We do have 2 championships, like we said, that are up for grabs, and that is the C2 class and C3 class, while João Vaz, who is out of the race, has already solidified his championship status in the C1 class. But we also have, as we continue to watch Pitchler try and hunt down his teammate in first here on board, the Gentleman's Trophy. And that is currently led by João Vaz, 156 points. Cardojo is 16 points back. So that can change with 20 points up for grabs. And since João Vaz is out, if Cardojo keeps it clean, this could mean that he can win the Gentleman's Trophy Championship, and that is for clean drivers. For those not familiar with iRacing, they get incident points for offs, car contacts, spins, various mistakes like that. So the cleaner they race, the more points they get at the end of this thing. Cardojo getting ever closer to that car, but it doesn't seem like they've got a battle quite yet. So let's hop over to one of the other classes. What's going on in the HPDs, Richard? Has anything developed up there?
Well, at this point, nothing has happened except that these guys have put in some good laps. Single file, they are Iker Estefania leading, Robert Tinsley 2.7 seconds back now. There must have been a development there actually now that I look at this, because he was 5 seconds back from Iker Estefania a lap or two ago. So Iker must have had a problem, because right now there's only a 2-second gap to Iker. So and Robert Tinsley looking very fast now behind Iker Estefania. Iker Estefania going quite slowly, it seems to me, passing that C3 car, as we see Robert Tinsley now having to make the pass, which he does, as they go up over the crest into turns 3 and then into the S's. A very, very tricky part of the course. Iker seems to have got his speed back once again, and he's certainly he's lost a lot of time. Robert Tinsley has him in sight now, and Robert Tinsley can think about making some moves on him. Other than that, Mark Maki is 5 seconds back. Nicholas Pomerad coming through traffic once again. Last Conrad, we've seen all these guys, they pretty much single file. We might take an opportunity here to put the camera on one of the HPDs that we have not mentioned up to now, and that's the 973 car of Hayden Burns. Let's have a look at Hayden and see how he's traveling and give him some airtime.
Absolutely. Currently sitting in 7th place overall and in his class. You can see him trying to get by the MP4 of Lobsang Jordan, who got a penalty a little bit earlier and gives him a nice wide berth. I think Lobsang learned his lesson on dealing with the HPDs at this point as he lets him by. I was going to say earlier that was, it was Frederick Batty, excuse me, the MP4 that our two leaders were working their way by. So as we watch Hayden work his way around on lap 28 with 2 hours and 25 minutes left to go in this race, doing fairly good for his first time. I did mention earlier that I was going to keep you updated on drivers that are out. I forgot to mention João Vaz obviously has exited, and Didier Chabrol has also exited the track. Also, Hartmut Glockner I thought that was a driver that has left and has not. I believe that might be someone who is coming and spectating. I apologize for that information. There's a lot flying around for us with 3 classes today around such a short track. So,
well, sorry,
go ahead, Richard.
I was just going to say Jan Ruling is also out in the HPD class, or at least I'm not seeing him on track. He's 22 laps down, so I think we can safely say he's out of the race as well.
Absolutely. So, with quite a bit left to go, we're not going to take a break quite yet. We're going to go a little bit longer, but we do have things calmed down a little bit. I'm trying to check to see if we've got any battles that we need to keep our eye on, but I'm wondering if we could possibly pull up our lap guide so we can give you an idea of what it's like circling around here, give you a little bit more in-depth look at this track and some of the corners. All right, we've got Stefan Overgaard behind the wheel of the GSRC Corvette, so let's do a lap around Road Atlanta. Turn 1 is a fast uphill right-hander. The car likes to push wide here, so watch out because the wall on the outside is known for sucking up cars after small mistakes. Next, you got to set up for 2 and 3 right away. Curved braking zone over a crest, and you can't see the apex until you're right there. This corner will catch guys out. Now comes the S's. It's essentially get your line right through here. Mess up your rhythm, and you'll be screwed up all through the valley. Into 5, the rise in the track really gives you grip on entry, but goes away later in the turn. Get greedy on the gas and expect a short trip to the concrete wall to the left. From there, set up for 6. Here's another compression zone, and there's lots of camber, so you can carry tons of momentum through here. But before you know it, you're into 7, the most important corner on the track. With it dumping you onto the longest stretch of the course, the exit is the part you really want to nail. Get it wrong, and you're a sitting duck down into the chicane of 10. That'll be coming up around this slight bend, and it's probably the best passing spot of the circuit. Tricky thing is, it's possible to defend from the outside if you can hold on for the switchback. don't be surprised to see guys making life difficult late in the race. As usual, set yourself up for the second part and get a nice launch. From there, aim for the middle of the bridge over this big crest and hold on. The final turn is fast and there's absolutely no room for mistakes on either side. But that's a lap around Road Atlanta. Welcome back. We're currently looking at Robert Tinsley trying to hunt down the leader. And look at, he is much closer now to the leader of Iker Estefania as that C2 car just absolutely hops out of the way. That's David Sustello who lets them on by. And Tinsley has been closing down and looks like he might have an opportunity if he really wants to be aggressive. It's a little early on to try and make a move like that. He's really closing up. Is Estefania going to defensive? He is. He's staying way far to the inside, and Tinsley backs out of it knowing that there's no chance at this point, trying to make it through the chicane. Loses a bit of ground, but now they're coming onto the front stretch, which is another very fast portion.
Yeah, when you're 2 hours left in a race, when you've got 2 hours left in a race, trying an overtaking maneuver into the very tricky chicane, unless you're certain that you've got the spot and you've got the other car and passed the other car basically down the straightaway, I wouldn't chance it, and that is exactly what Tinsley did. He backed out of it pretty quickly, actually. As we saw, the moment he saw that Iker Estefania was going defensive, he basically backed out, and I think that's wise. At this stage, there's plenty of time for him to make moves, not to mention the fact that he could even beat him in the pits if he gets a good pit stop.
Absolutely. And you know what? I have to say, that was a very savvy move by Iker Estefania. He didn't really go completely far inside. He just kind of stuck it right in the middle of the track, kind of left it up into Tinsley's hands and said, if you really want this, you can try to sneak it up the inside. But I think he knew that Robert's a little bit smarter than that, not trying to go so aggressive as they come back to that spot now, and there's no chance for Tinsley to make a pass this time by. So very smart driving from Iker to not just take it all the way to the inside, but kind of leave it in the following driver's hands to see if he really wants to try and chance that, as now they pass yet another C3 car.
Guys, I want to jump in real quick. David Sustello just had a scary moment going over the kink in turn 3, spun his car all the way around and went nose first into a tire barrier, albeit not that hard. Unfortunately for him, there was a long line of cars coming around the bend, so he had no way of getting his car turned around and lost a lot of positions. On one of the cars that did go by was Stefan Overgaard, who I believe is a lap ahead of him. So right now, David Sustello not living up to the pace today, and then had a big scary moment. Also, I do want to mention that Kevin O'Keefe is out of the race now officially, so that'll be the end of his day.
Oh, another car that didn't get very far in this. It's very sad to see, especially as popular as Kevin is. However, we do have a development in C3. Currently, our leader is Patrick Pitchler. He's managed to get by Allmensberger, and not only that, João Cardojo has moved up into second. He has gotten by Andreas Allmensberger. So the top 3 has completely switched around, and it might switch even further. I'm not sure what Allmensberger is struggling with, but he's got Tom Valentini right behind him. You can see them heading onto the backstretch with an absolute gaggle of cars all around them. This could come into play, as you can see that is Lars Conrad and the HPD trying to get by them, and they've got a Corvette that is coming through. I believe that is our leader of David DeRoche. It is, who's going to try and get by before the chicane. It's going to hold up Allmensberger just a little bit, and that allows Valentini to get ever so closer.
Yeah, that's correct. It's a great battle going on here, and we haven't had the cameras on them for a while. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I was gonna say that would have been a prime spot for Nacho Lamorti to make an attempt at a lead in the C2 class. Unfortunately, the HPD had come through right at the right time for David DeRoche and was able to help defend that position. Right now, we see David DeRoche going up the inside on that long back straight, trying to get as far away from Nacho Lamorti as he can as he passes that MP4 there, going down the hill on the inside once again. He's going to try and get every position he can, and this is where David's definitely shined today. Every time he catches traffic there, he dives up the inside and makes a clean pass, and that's what's keeping him in front of Nacho Lamorti. Lamorti has to play catch-up going through all of these cars, and he doesn't really get a chance to do that until the first back straight, I guess you could call it, at the bottom of the S's. So right now, David DeRoche having a very smart, strategic race right now crossing lap 32.
Well, we saw a bit of a mistake from him, though. He put 2 wheels off, I'm pretty sure, coming up to 6, but he wasn't in the braking zone, so he just brought it back onto the track. But that can be a very hairy moment if you are getting wheels into this Georgia red clay. as it can be extremely unforgiving. And now he's coming by the MP4 of Patrick Pitchler, who is leading the C3 class currently, and makes a clean pass, as you said, on through there. He must be taking some pointers from João Cardojo, I have to say, because Cardojo is kind of one of those guys that just runs his line, and kind of lets everybody else decide what they want to do there. Just stays consistent, not aggressive, but just really is firm about his position on the track. And speaking of Cardojo, we're now watching him try to hunt down that C3 lead to see if he can get yet another win in this class. Not close enough to do anything at the moment, though, Brian.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. He's one of those drivers that will defend his space pretty harshly. If you try to get into his little personal bubble there, he doesn't like it too much. So he will do everything he can to defend and keep his distance from everyone else. And I think that's where he excels as one of the drivers. He's very smart about where he puts his car, and he's also very good over a long race. Right now in the standings, as you mentioned earlier, he's down 41 points from Manuel Sanchez, but Sanchez back in 6th place is a long ways from making those points up. And right now, David Drosh is looking very good in the points chase.
Absolutely. And yeah, David Drosh won't be able to win the championship, but he could overtake Stefan Overgaard, who it's not looking good for, despite having a great qualifying and starting on pole. We've seen this from Overgaard before as well, Brian. He seems to be looking very good early on in the race, and then something happens, and he's been sitting in 4th ever since his mistake, and he's actually heading into pits now. So it looks like strategy's starting to make its appearance.
Yeah.
And it sounds like also Tom Valentini has headed into the pits. We can see him on screen now as well as he slots into his place, Brian.
Yeah, I want to go back to Stefan Overgaard real quick, though. Stefan, I believe it was Infineon Raceway or Sonoma, whatever you want to call it. He had a big off going through the S's there and hit the wall. That ultimately cost his overall position. I know in a few other races this season he's had similar incidents where he just made a small little misjudgment on the brakes or in the power zone, and it just kind of take himself out of the race. And I think as a driver overall, he's very good, and he's a great sport. He likes to race clean. So if he could just minimize those accidents next season or in any of his races, he would be better off. It's just one of those things that drivers struggle with throughout their career, and unfortunately, that's been one of his MOs. So right now, Stefan Overgaard has a lot of time to make up, and at least he's still in the race. He's still racing hard on the same lap as David DeRoche, I do believe, but he's a long ways back, Joe. It's not looking too good for him, as you said.
Now, I'm trying to remember. I don't believe DeRoche has been able to come home with a win yet. He's currently leading in the C2 class, and not by a huge margin. Nacho Lamorte is hunting him down. I'm trying to remember. Brian, can you recall if... I don't think DeRoche has won yet this season.
Yeah, I don't recall him winning either. For some reason, VIR keeps coming into my mind, but if I remember right, he was a long ways back in that race too. And David DeRoche, as fast as he is, just seems like he can never really get on the front row or the top of the podium either. And yeah, I mean, it's not that he's lacking the speed; it's just something doesn't work right for him in a lot of the races.
You remember in Montreal, he had an opportunity. He was hunting down the leader hand over fist, and then towards the ailing stages of the race made a mistake into that final chicane. Once again, much like Stefan Overgaard, just needs to limit those mistakes. Right now doing very good to get himself up into that first position, not by necessarily having the pace, but just simply keeping his car clean and putting it in the right places with 2 hours and 13 minutes left to go. We're almost a third of the way in as we watch Stefan Overgaard work his way around, and it looks like a C1 car, has exited the pits and put his stop in, and that was Hayden Barnes, actually, who's followed very closely by Lars Conrad, and I think Lars is a lap ahead because he hasn't put his pit stop in yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. Richard, how's things looking in the HPD?
Well, Iker Estefania, as you will recall, some time ago was being challenged quite strongly by Robert Tinsey. That battle has dissipated now as Iker has pulled out a 2-second gap on Robert. So there's nothing much happening there. I want to take the opportunity now to bring in the last of our HPD still on track. That's the 971 car of Gregory Caradis. If we can put a camera on this guy, he's a lap down on the other HPDs. He's just been circulating, but I have to say he's doing a lot better than some of the more fancy drivers, just by the fact that he's still on track, whereas others have ended their race. So just trundling along and running really nice, safe, clean laps. And if he has anybody in his family or friends that is watching, they have an opportunity to watch Gregory Caridas in action, doing a good job.
Yeah, and like you said, just circulating, just keeping out of trouble can really pay off in races like this. It's worked for Mark Muckie to get himself up into podiums and eventually win races. He's actually outlasted quite a few decent names, João Vaz being one of them that Gregory Caridas is going to finish ahead of in this grueling 3-hour race. So kudos to Gregory for keeping his car whole and intact. You can see I don't see a single scratch on it at the moment as he maneuvers his way through the chicane and now around those final few corners. Pit stops have been taking place, and according to this, everyone in C3 has pitted except João Cardojo. So João Cardojo has temporarily taken lead. I take that back. João Cardojo is in the pits right now, actually. And Patrick Pitchler, where is Patrick Pitchler? He is currently coming through the chicane, so this could have implications for the lead in the C3 class, depending on when João Cardojo can get out of there. He's going to be a long pit since it's
leaving
a
now.
long race.
He's leaving the pits now.
Yes. And Pitchler is coming around to turn 1. Is Cardojo going to be able to beat him out? It's going to be extremely close. In fact, they could be side by side. No, it looks like Cardojo is going to be able to jump him as Pitchler now is coming up just behind him. Cardojo is going to be on very cold tires, so this could be Pitchler's best opportunity.
Yes, indeed, but he's coming out blasting away as they go into turn 5 now. Let's see what sort of a launch Patrick Pitchler gets out of this. He is catching up. The telling thing will be coming down that long straightaway, which is so characteristic of Road Atlanta. He closes right up, coming through that sharp right-hander. Now they go down that long straightaway, which, by the way, as we all know, is not actually a straightaway. It's got at least 2 turns in it. Will he make a move? Joe, what do you think?
Well, he's got the draft if he wants to be aggressive, and this is going to be a critical point because earlier it seemed like Cardojo was just waiting patiently for an opportunity. He's going to have to try and get by, and no, he just holds on back. They've got Andreas Almensberg close behind them. In fact, the top 4 are all line astern. You can see them all on your screen at one time as we watch this battle. Don't forget, this series is sponsored by Sim Seats, and they've done a lot to make this series a fantastic one. Have provided a lot of great prizes, and these prizes are up for grabs. As Tom Valentini. Yeah, I was just noticing that, just slid out and was able to hold on to it. This is going to lose him these top 3 cars. Andreas Almensberger is still in it with Patrick Pitchler ahead of him in second and João Cardojo in the lead. Don't forget, as you watch this, definitely feed us your thoughts. Who do you think is going to come out on top when all is said and done? Tweet us at GSR Channel and follow the EnduroPro Series at EnduroPro Series. They're going to have the next season in 2015, so they're going to have a bit of a break, but they want your feedback. So definitely let them know what you think was the most exciting parts and what you want to see come back in 2015. There are going to be a few small changes possibly in the season, so let them know what races you enjoyed most and give them some feedback, absolutely. But let's stick on this battle for the top 3 in the C3 class, as we've got Manuel Sanchez blasting through these guys, and Andreas Almensberger is closing up on the back of Pitchler, but backs out of it as they come into the chicane.
That's correct, and this is probably the best battle going on in the race at this point in time. Looks like the HPDs are all single file and quite a fair gap between all of them. So let's keep on this battle because Andres Almensberger looking pretty pacey. I'm surprised at Pitchler though. Pitchler has not really attempted to make a move on Cardojo. Cardojo just very, very precise as he negotiates some of these very tricky corners, and nobody's been able to make an impression on the other as they do close up through 5 now, and then they go into this kind of straightaway, and there's a car in front of Cardojo. Who is that? That is Diogo Falconer. It looks like they're going to lap him. He actually goes way off track trying to give room to the leaders, and safely comes back on track right now, goes back off again as some other cars come through as well. He's thinking the safest place is on the grass right now.
And we are sitting on board with Andreas Allmensberger, and it's getting very close. You can see there's so little gap between these guys as they head down the chicane. Allmensberger starts to close, and Nacho Lamorte is coming up on these guys and breaks up that battle just a little bit. Is he going to try and dive in on the leader? It looks like he might. No, he's thankfully backs out of it. I was going to say that was a long way back, and that actually compromises his exit as he's side by side with Allmensberger, who we are still on board with. Now we've hopped off board, and I'm getting word that Frederick Batty has disconnected. So another car has bitten the dust as we've got, wow, just look at all that traffic blasting through. That is Mark Mucky that is splitting these guys up, all three classes in one shot. I want to stay with this being such a close battle between these guys, but we've got some information on the C2 class. Fill us in, Brian.
Yeah, David Drosch went in for a full service stop. He's about 5 minutes or 2 minutes ago, excuse me, so he is going to be out of the lead temporarily, and it looks like Nacho Lamorte knows that this is his chance to get a lead by getting in front of all the traffic that he can, as well as getting up all that time he missed. I do think Nacho Lamorte is faster than David, but David has been very good about setting picks and using the traffic to his advantage. So right now, while Nacho is out, he's going to use the last little bit of gas he has, pinch off a few really fast laps, and hopefully jump David Drosch when he goes in the pit finally.
Once again, the traffic is separating the men from the boys. I'm not sure if we can get a nice wide shot. We're still on Patrick Pitchler, but you can see just off in the distance, wow, look at how much time Cardozo has been able to put between himself and Pitchler. Like I said, this has been really critical for Pitchler to try and make something, as now Lamorte, you can see off on the side of your screen, heads in. But João Cardozo continuing to lead the way in C3 as he's done for much of the season, and starting to put some distance between himself and second place Pitchler.
Well, you know, Joe, that was all traffic that caused that. It separated all three of them once they were very, very close to each other. But now there's a little bit of a distance between them, and that was that frantic traffic coming through, the faster classes coming through that kind of interrupted their battle. But that is the nature of multi-class racing. Now Pitchler has got it all to do to try and catch back up to João Cardozo. And we know that João Cardozo is very fast, has won a lot of races here, leads, and in fact, leads the championship, hasn't quite won it yet. But it's going to be hard to catch him once he gets the bit between his teeth.
Speaking of close battles, David DeRoche is now coming around the final corner. Nacho Lamorte still sitting in his pits, and he's starting to exit now. So, Brian, this could be implications. Let's see if he can get around him. That is Stefan Overgaard, who I don't think has pit yet, who has come around just behind him. Yes, it looks like we could have a jump. David DeRoche is coming up behind Nacho Lamorte, and this could be his best opportunity to get that lead back once again. Cold tires for Lamorte, Brian.
Yeah, Lamorte almost took himself out of the race just now, going over the curve just a little on the inside, taking out that cone as he passed by. But David DeRoche has a little bit warmer tires, just about a lap of extra heat, so that's going to help him a little bit. Right now, we see him going side by side, and HBD trying to go around in the middle. He's going to hold back. David DeRoche passes him, makes a very big sweeping turn through, and now the HBD is slowing down Nacho Lamorte. Lamorte won't be able to turn in. David DeRoche just took the lead back, which he believes is rightfully his, and so does the race go on. David DeRoche is now back in the race lead.
Oof, very good move by DeRoche. Very brave to go around the outside into six, but he used that camber quite perfectly.
Yeah, excuse me, Joe. I need to step away right now. I do hear tornado sirens in my town. I will get back to you in one moment.
Well, we hope everything stays okay. And I saw a car off. Who was that? That is Nacho Lamorte, actually, who had an off in the chicane, and he is heading into the pits, interestingly, after just going in. I'm not sure if he made contact somewhere. I'm not seeing any sort of contact. This is an unusual development for Nacho Lamorte, so hopefully everything is all right with his car. He was having such a good battle with DeRoche for the lead there, even though he just lost the position. But definitely good for DeRoche. Gives him a nice bit of leeway because he's got a fair gap back to Yuka Savati, who should be effectively sitting in second, as I don't believe Stefan Overgaard has pitted yet. I'm going to check his laps real quick here and see. He did pit, actually. Interesting, I'm hearing. Yeah, actually, we saw him pit. So, effectively, Stefan Overgaard has moved himself back into the lead. I sure hope that Brian is able to come back soon, because things have really gotten mixed up in an unusual and unexpected development in C2, Richard.
Yeah, that's correct. Stefan Overgaard did pit. I wasn't particularly watching, but I did notice him go into the pits at that time. So he's come out, and whilst we were concentrating on all the others, Stefan Overgaard has retaken the lead of the C2 class, and he's putting down some really good laps now. I'm just watching him. He's looking very fast. David DeRoche is behind him a fair way back. David DeRoche coming up to turn 1. Where is Stefan? Stefan going up to turn number 3 now. So a useful lead he's got if he can hold it together. Hopefully he's got his car repaired from the earlier problems he had. So this might be his opportunity once again, Joe.
I'm not sure if we can go 30 seconds back in time for David DeRoche. Had a huge moment coming down the final corner, and that is not a place that you want to lose it. Yeah, now we're going to replay it here, and we're gonna see this as he comes down to the chicane, coming through the final corner. Put wheels in the grass. That is a very scary place to do this, and that lost him quite a bit of time from Stefan Overgaard, who he was trying to run down. You'll see coming over the crest now. Just watch on the left side as he was letting an HPD by, so that threw him off. Just catches it. You didn't quite see the bobble, but that can be incredibly scary because you're going so fast through that corner.
Joe, news from the HPD. Iker Estefania is off the track. He is no longer in this race. Don't know what happened there. We will have to go back and find out. But we're getting a replay, and he is definitely off track, possibly taking a tow, but not in the race at this point in time.
We're watching the replay now, and I haven't seen exactly what happened either, and I'm not seeing anything at the moment. He's behind Robert Tinsey and actually went off after Robert. Oh my goodness, that was a huge blow into the tire barrier coming into the S's. That is going to severely upset his car. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to come back from that. I'm not sure why he was behind Robert Tinsey, though. That's what interests me even more is how in the world did Robert Tinsey get ahead of him?
Yeah, well, we'll have to go and find. I will go and find out what happened there. But we were watching the other battles in the C2 at that point in time and talking about Stefan Overgaard, and this was just taking place, which does happen in multi-class racing. We haven't got eyes everywhere at this point in time. Brian, where the heck are you? But right now, Robert Tinsey leading the C1 class. Nicholas Pomerad is your number 2. And Mark Mucky quietly going about his business in 3rd place, but a fair way back, about 4 seconds back from Nicholas Pomerad. Lars Conrad still doing a good job in 4th place at this point in time. He is about 11 seconds back from Mark Mucky. Yes, 11 seconds. And then we've got Sylvain Pomerad, Hayden Burns, and Gregory Caradis. Iker Estefania still not showing on track, still possibly taking that tow, or has decided to give it up, Joe.
Yeah, and just remember, we're going to go to break very soon here, but Mark Mucky started in 6th, and he has worked his way up to the podium once again, working well for him to just keep it clean. And we will have Brian hopefully back very soon. They are testing the sirens, so they're not actually, thankfully, having an actual tornado where he is out in Michigan. We are going to go to break, and we'll just real quick before we do, Robert Tinsey leading in C1, Stefan Overgaard is leading in C2, and João Cardojo is leading in C3. We'll be back after a moment. Welcome back to Road Atlanta, where we're watching the final round in the first season of the EnduroPro Series. We're looking at Robert Tinsey, who is leading the way in C1 class. Stefan Oergaard is still leading in the C2 class, and then in C3, João Cardojo is leading the way. Now, we've had some interesting developments recently. Mostly, Robert Tinsey made an excellent move for the lead, and it seems like, Richard, he didn't quite need to do it because Iker Estefania has exited after running into the tire barriers in the S's. But man, we were watching that move. Unfortunately, we can't get a replay, but that was an excellent one by Robert Tinsey.
Correct. That was actually coming down the straightaway. He was on the outside going into the chicane. They went through the chicane almost together, and he got the better exit and shot away on the exit through the chicane and legitimately took first position before Iker Estefania had his accident. By the way, we haven't seen Iker Estefania back yet, so his day might well be done. In second place, we've got Nicholas Pomerad and a battle developing with Mark Mucky, slowly but surely cutting down that lead. It's about 2.5 seconds at this point, so I'll keep an eye on that. So Mark's in third place. Lars Conrad is in fourth place, but he is a further 13 seconds back, so not featuring in any kind of battle at this point in time. And the others, Hayden Burns and Gregory Caradis, Sylvan Pomerad, they're all holding station at this point in time, just doing their laps. Still a long way to go, John.
And C2, we also had some interesting developments. Nacho Lamorte has lost his second position that he came back into after his pit stops. It looked like he might be able to challenge for the lead, but David DeRoche was able to overtake him. But Nacho Lamorte, strangely, and we're not sure why still, went right back into the pits, and this has put him nearly a lap down, actually fully a lap down. Brian, is that what you were telling me earlier?
Yeah, well, I think he's approaching the point now where he's going to be on the same lap as everyone else as the HBDs come through, but he's a little ways back from where I left him when the tornado sirens were going off here in my county where they test them on Saturday, the first week of the month. But still, Stefan Oergaard having a great run, found his way back in the lead. David DeRoche is not far behind, but he's right now not putting any pressure on Stefan. And of course, Yoga Suvati, who's been running in third basically this whole race, has been very clean himself. He's been gaining a little bit of time as each lap goes by, but I just don't think he has a pace today to make a stab at a podium, or a top podium finish, excuse me. And then Manuel Sanchez, he has been down the whole race, started in the pits. I think he had an off at one point, and now has found his way up in the fourth place. I'm not sure what the circumstances of his pit stop were, but right now, Manuel Sanchez having a good run, currently in fourth place.
And we've had a change for third and fourth position over in C3. Tom Valentini overtook Andreas Almensberger, his teammate. We're seeing Tom right now on our screen, followed very closely still. Andreas dropped for a little bit, but as we were talking, I was keeping half an eye on, and Andreas is closed back up on him. It's kind of an ebb and flow, as we always say with these multi-class endurance racing, as you kind of have to give and take. But Andreas not giving up and wanting to get back into that podium position, that's for sure. He doesn't seem to have an opportunity right now, so I want to kind of keep half an eye on Nicholas Pomerade, since we should probably give him just a bit of airtime, Richard, because it seems like Mark Mucky is trying to keep him under pressure. He's not very close right now. He's got about 5 seconds between them that I'm seeing, but he's Mark Mucky moving from 6th to 3rd up into the podium position, is not letting any of these guys breathe.
Well, that's actually Mark Mucky's gone backwards. A couple of laps ago, he was 2 seconds back from Nicholas Pomerad, and he's now 5 seconds back. So he must have had a moment whilst we were watching some of the other classes. But I'm looking at Mark Mucky right now. He's got it all together again, and he is certainly doesn't look like his car's damaged in any way. So he might have just touched the grass or had a slowdown through traffic or whatever. But yes, Nicholas Pomerad, a very nice second position for him. Having said that, he is 15 seconds back from Robert Tinsey, who's way out in front at this point in time. But I guess we should tell the folks that we've only done about 1 minute and 15 seconds. Sorry, 1 hour and 15 minutes, I should say, in this race. So still a heck of a long way to go.
Absolutely. So we're not even to the halfway point, although we're getting fairly close. Now, one car that I'm looking at, Brian, Manuel Sanchez, sitting in fourth in his class. Now, he's made a lot of fantastic progress, and I believe this is by merit. And I'm trying to look at the gap, and I think it's about, it looks like less than 20 seconds, just under 20 seconds between himself and Stefan Oergaard. So Sanchez, after starting from the pits, has done a fantastic job, I have to say, of keeping things in touch. I mean, like we said, there's still more than half the race to go. He could still run down the leaders if he keeps this up.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what Richard and yourself were talking about earlier in the race. It's just about circulating and keeping that car clean. Right now, with as much traffic as we have on the track, attrition is still a big factor, and with the ever-changing weather on each lap, it makes it very difficult for a lot of the guys that are racing very close. So right now, Manuel Sanchez has had a very clean race. He's just keeping his car on hitting the marks and not overdriving it particularly too much. And with his raw natural talent and speed, it's really paid off for him as he's worked his way up to fourth place. Of course, there's a few other factors involved with Nacho Morty falling back to sixth and a few other little things like that, but still, you can't take that away from Manuel Sanchez, who's having a very, very well-run day.
Absolutely, and as we continue to watch him circulate, I just want to stay on him, but mention a few drivers that have been put out with accidents or various things going wrong. Jan Ruling is gone. Kevin O'Keefe has left the race. Zhao Vaz, championship winner, has left the race. Didier Chabrol is gone. Frederick Batty is out of the race. Diogo Falcomer is the last car on track at the moment, and he is just behind Iker Estefania, who has exited out as well. And it'll take him still, I think, 7 more laps for him to overtake Iker in the standings overall. But that's because Diogo is in C3 and Iker is in C1. He's done just that many more laps in the C3 cars. There's a significant difference, I have to say, Richard, between the lap times of these C1 and C3 cars, simply because of the incredible downforce that these C1 cars have.
Make no mistake. I can give you some statistics here from our timing and scorings application. So João Cardoso, who leads the C3 class, he is 7 minutes behind the leader. So that just shows you how much faster these HPDs are than that MP4, which is no slouch itself as a GT car. As we see Nicholas Pomeroy just overtaking a bobbling C2 car, that was David DeRoche having a bit of a bobble there, Brian. So he was just overtaken there, and David DeRoche in second place in the C2. Now, the difference between the C1s and C2, so the leader of the C2 is Stefan Overgaard. He is 5 minutes behind the leader. So just goes to show how good and how fast these C1 cars are.
Yeah, and we're looking at Patrick Pitchler, who is sitting in second in the C3 class, and he is trying his hardest to hold on to João Cardoso. He's been keeping him in check, that's for sure. Cardoso's not able to quite run away with it. Some of that might be the traffic, some of it might be pace. We're still not entirely sure, because it's been so hectic with, we started out with 28 cars on track. Now we are currently down to 22 that are still circulating out there. And even 22 is a fairly small between 3 different classes, and yet still you can see on your screen just how many cars have had to deal with different classes coming through. And actually they're coming through their own class now, as João Cardoso has gone by Richard Albert in that yellow car that they're working their way through on the backstretch. So we are 56 laps in for at least those cars. I'm sorry, 63 overall for the leader Robert Tinsey, and we've got 1 hour and 41 minutes left to go. So, not even halfway through, and they've put in that many laps. This is going to be a lot of laps around this track. That's a lot of chances to make errors with 12 corners, Brian, for these guys to have to navigate each time.
Yeah, and like you said, going back to that lap guide, we have the turn one, which is really strong on snap over steer type behavior. You got turn two, that's kind of a blind up and left hand corner. Then turn three, that kink, that's very difficult in every car, especially the Corvette, who doesn't have a ton of downforce or added computer parts to help it remain traction. And then, of course, coming down through the S's, another very tricky spot, especially when it's clogged with traffic. This track is definitely not for the beginner driver, and it takes a lot out of you over the time. So right now, about halfway through the race, or just short of halfway through the race, these guys must already be tired driving these cars as fast as they are, Joe.
Oh yeah, and that's something we haven't touched on yet today. Is working through 3 hours of sim racing is not quite the same as working through 3 hours in a real car. There's a lot of adrenaline going on, even though you're getting the adrenaline in your cockpit still when you're racing in sim racing. It's still a different beast, Richard. Trying to make sure that you're staying focused and staying in it, and not wearing yourself mentally and physically out for those 3 hours.
Yeah, that's true, Joe. The drivers talk about getting in the zone, and that is very important in endurance racing. You want to kind of get into autopilot mode, if you like, and just let your hands and feet do the job of keeping the car on the track. If you can get into that zone, it is a lot easier. If you are concentrating to the maximum all the time, you find that you will be fatigued more quickly than if you were just working in the zone. Also, when you are in a battle, that's when your adrenaline starts pumping really fast, and obviously you have to concentrate very hard. That can be very tiring, particularly if it's constant battling. The other thing is, in multi-class racing, you've always got to keep an eye on your mirrors and in front of you. So you've got to have eyes in the front and the back of your head. Not an easy thing to do for 3 hours at all, Joe.
And speaking of having eyes in the front and back of our heads, we missed a change of position. Tom Valentini has been overtaken by Andreas Allmensberger once again. You can see them battling, these teammates, pure racing team cars, duking it out, coming around this final corner onto the front stretch once again. Tom losing just a little bit of time on Andreas, and now they've got a C1 car diving into there, just splits them through turn one. That is a brave move for him, and now he's got to slow up because there's really no point in trying to push it through here. And Richard, the other thing in this, especially at this point in the race, we talk about the focus and getting in the groove. It can be especially difficult with so few cars close together, at least for position on track, as Tom makes a big mistake coming out of turn 5 and loses even more ground on his teammate. But when you've got nobody directly to fight with, you've got only the track and your lap times to focus on. And like we said, there's a lot of laps that these guys are rifling off. The monotony can make it so easy to lose focus, and that zone can maybe sometimes hurt you in a way, because you're not thinking as much, and it, when something unexpected happens, like if you've got that traffic coming up on you and you're just kind of rifling it off, you're not paying attention to what's going on. As now we can see Mark Mucky splitting these drivers as a good example, that you've got to keep on your toes, and you can't let yourself relax too much if you've got nobody around to fight.
Yeah, I do agree with what you say there. When you're running by yourself, what will tend to happen is your lap times will degrade because you go into this automatic mode, and you're not concentrating 100%. Your marks, you may miss one or two of your marks in a lap, and that'll tend to slow you down. When you are battling, or when you have a car in front of you that you're trying to catch, that keeps you sharp, even though it will tire you out more than if you're running by yourself. It does keep you sharp and give you better lap times. So there's pluses and minuses to running by yourself and being in battles. But what we know definitely is that a 3-hour race will tire you out. There's no doubt.
It tires us out in the booth alone, that's for sure. And speaking of keeping sharp, Brian, you made an observation I was just going to mention myself, and that's Sanchez has just stopped in for his pit. He seems to be running on a bit of an alternate strategy.
Yeah, if you remember back to the half-hour point in the race, which would have been exactly an hour ago or somewhere around there, Manuel Sanchez went in on a mystery pit stop, and we couldn't really figure out what he was doing. But right now, if that were the case that he was on an alternate pit stop, he would have just finished his tank of gas. These Corvettes usually last about an hour or just over an hour, so right now it looks like he's been trying to do something alternate so he can avoid the traffic the best of his ability, and that moves him finally back to 6th place. So it's going to be very difficult to see where he is. Now, another factor might be that he could have forgotten to take off his qualifying setup, and that would have shorted him on fuel at the beginning of the race. So maybe he only had about a half-hour fuel to begin with, and then he's trying to play catch-up because of it. So there's a bit of speculation going on what kind of strategy or factors Manuel Sanchez has put himself into during this race that has caused him to pit on such weird intervals.
Yeah,
Guys, I gotta jump in here before you go, Joe. There's been a change in C3, and we've missed it. It seems Patrick Pitchler is in the lead of this race right now.
indeed. I'm going to go back and see if I can figure out where that change took place between them. Yeah, Patrick Pitchler is now overtaken, and we're looking at the replay, and it looks like it's already happened on our replay, but I can see that it was about a lap ago, heading into the chicane. Pitchler somehow got a run on Cardozo, and with traffic just behind them, that was just lost the HPD, that Nicholas Pomerade actually split them, and that gave just a little bit of breathing room to Patrick Pitchler, who has put the gap on him, but that gap has now disappeared, and we're looking at the replay real quick before we come back. Just look at that. Excellent, very opportunistic move by Pitchler. If we can go back live now, Cardozo already has made up the ground and is all over the back of Pitchler.
Yeah, correct. And as they go into turn 5 down that short straightaway, and we have a HPD blasting through once again, and that'll slow up Pitchler just a fraction as he gives room to the HPD, and that gives João Cardoso another opportunity as they come through 7 now, going down the straightaway. Will he attack, or will he just stay behind him? That is the question.
Well, he's certainly got that draft, and look at Pitchler staying super defensive all the way to the inside. He knows that Cardozo could have a run here. He stays inside, giving just a little bit of a car's width of room, and doesn't actually get back. Now he gets back to the line halfway there. This is going to give him a terrible exit. Cardozo, if he gets a good run, looks like he's got a decent run. Is he going to try something into 1? It looks, oh, and there was an HPD off just off the screen. Who was that? That was, oh no, that was C2, that's Nacho Lamorte.
It's C2 Lamorte, who pops into the pits now.
And thankfully, as that distracted us, we didn't miss a pass to the lead as Lamorte heads into his pit stall. I'm not sure what happened there. Brian, you'll have to keep us up to date and tell us if he had an off or what there. That was an unusual place for him to be sitting. In the meantime, Cardozo still trying to work on Patrick Pitchler for that C1 lead. C3 lead, excuse me.
Yes, it is. And they're very close, pretty much the same as they were the last time by. Now they're coming back into turn number 6, which is a beautiful flowing right-hander. Actually has some banking as well there. Through 7 onto the straightaway once again. Pitchler got a really good exit there. Cardozo's actually lost some time going into their jump.
Yeah, and since we've got a bit of a gap, let's get Brian in. Let's continue to watch this battle, though, because look at that. We've still got those top 4 and C3 all together on screen. But Brian, give us an update on what happened to Lamorte.
You may notice now, Joe, that Lars Conrad was black flagged for avoidable contact on lap 69, and that was because as they were coming out of the chicane, Lars Conrad had a big run on Nacho Lamorte in that Corvette. Nacho stayed out wide a little to the left, just as much as he could, turning in down the hill to the start-finish line, when Lars Conrad took the front of his car right at the back of, Nacho Lamorte, picking him up all the way off the ground and then rolling him down the hill. So Nacho Lamorte's car is in horrible shape right now. He hit the wall pretty hard, spun all the way down the hill, and then back into traffic, and that's where you saw him off on the grass by the MP4 battle. So Nigel Amorti might be out of this race. It's going to be a long pit stop, if any. And Lars Conrad is also in bad shape as the front of his car now has found his way onto the back of the Corvette. So, unfortunate accident. I think that was 100% Lars Conrad not paying attention, maybe fatigue being a factor, but I don't know how other many ways there are to say it. Lars Conrad just made a no-brainer mistake right there.
Yeah, like you said, it's easy to get what we call brain fade in these endurance races. So you can't be too harsh on them. It's so tough to stay in it. We are an hour and a half, and we're just about exactly halfway through this race. And I want to we're on Lars Conrad. We see him missing his front end. I want to get back to that battle between our top C3 guys, as it's still incredibly close. Now we're viewing them, but I was going to say. If this was a regular race in the series, which are usually about 90 minutes typically, it would already be over. These guys would have been, completely finished and be able to sit and relax. They have to repeat this all over again, what they've just done, and do that exact same thing all over and continue to put in competitive lap times, continue to focus, continue to get their strategy right, and be able to navigate all this traffic. That is just a huge demand on these drivers, and you can see the ones that can handle that have practiced and that have the endurance, hence endurance racing, that come to the top. Guys like Patrick Pitchler, who we see leading, followed closely by João Cardoso, the usually dominant force in this series. And I definitely cannot count out João Cardoso in the past, who has come back from lower positions than this and really been able to take it to these top contenders. Right now, he's just sitting and hunting them down, keeping Andreas Almensberger in third just behind him and at bay, as now we've hopped on board with João Cardoso heading down the backstretch, and not far behind them, we can't see on screen, Tom Valentini sitting in fourth. So these top four guys, and these really have been the four guys that have been the class of the field, Richard, for most of this series, and are proving once and time again why that they are considered the best in the MP4.
Correct, and if you look at the championship standings, that is the way the championship has played out. João Cardoso leading this championship, Patrick Pitchler just behind him on 8 points back. No, sorry, 32 points back actually. Then Tom Valentini and Andreas Almensberger. So these guys have also, in a couple of the races that I have been privileged to commentate on, they've provided some really exciting racing. And today is it's no different. They are running closely, which cannot be said of any of the other two classes, C1 and C2. There's quite a bit of space between the guys in all the other classes. But here you have the top four guys running really closely and providing quite a spectacle for the viewer.
Well, João Cardoso closed up for just a moment, but he's not going to be able to get a chance as, who is that? Someone going by him. That's Andreas Almensberger, who's overtaken João Cardoso. That is for position. Andreas Almensberger moves up into second place, so now Pitchler has a buffer in the form of his teammate between himself and João Cardoso, who he's fighting the championship for.
Yeah, there was an HPD, Robert Tinsey, in fact, coming through that caused these guys to check up a little bit, and it looks like João Cardoso was forced to give up that position rather than get into a freakish battle there. So he's got back up to speed again now, and make no mistake, João Cardoso is very, very fast, as we see the cones flying all over the place, being upset by the HPD. He's right on the back, going into 5 once again, on the back of Andreas Almenberger. So, as we said before, this battle has continued virtually for the whole 1.5 hours.
I'm not sure if we can get a replay on Mark Muckey and Nicholas Pomerade, but I was wanting to hop over them because Mark Muckey just changed position, moving himself up into second, overtaking Nicholas in a smooth move coming into turn 1. Now we're going to look at that, and we're actually quite far back from that, so we'll have to wait just a little bit. You can see it all started to kick off here, coming down the back stretch as he's very close on behind Nicholas. And he's definitely got the draft here. You can see how close he is. Going to have an opportunity down into the chicane. He takes just a little bit of a look, but decides to back out of it. And this is where it starts to really play into his hands. gets a nice, good launch out of the chicane. This is really critical out of here, up over this hill, and this fast corner for these guys. Just flat out blast through here, and now he's got that run, that draft coming into turn one. Despite how fast this corner is, you can get through there and just textbook inside pass. Nicholas has to move out of the way, and Mark gets it done.
Yeah, really good move there by Mark Mucky, moving himself now into second position. You know, Joe, I'm amazed at the downforce that these cars have, and how much faster than anything else on the roadside they can go. These guys through the S's are doing 140 miles an hour, which is pretty fast, let me tell you. And that's all due to the downforce aero package that these cars have. They really are the counterpart, the road counterpart of an F1 car almost. I would say.
Yeah, I was just going to say that they're comparable to that in the amount of downforce that they're able to generate. I think it's only the fact that they're made for endurance racing that they aren't faster than the F1 car, because they're more set up to conserve fuel and things like that, and to be able to endure just a little bit more punishment, even though they're still rather fragile comparatively, as we watch Mark Mucky slide up the inside of Yuka Savati, who's sitting in third in the C2 class, and been able, actually, excellent job on him to be able to use that Corvette to really put some distance between himself and Nicholas Pomerade, who's fighting him for the second position. And we're getting word that we've got some developments in the C2 class, actually, Brian.
Yeah, it looks like the race leader for the C2 class, Steven Overgaard, has gone in the pits, followed by a few other cars in the both HPD, I believe, and MP4. So that gives David DeRoche now a temporary lead to see if he can pass him. Unfortunately, David DeRoche was quite a ways back on the track, and also just now was facing traffic from an HPD. So I think David DeRoche will not get the pass. He's a little ways back, but right now he's running a good race. So David DeRoche sitting on the podium. Yuka Savati still out, I believe. He's a little ways back from David. Right now, it just looks like Stefan Overgaard's the only one risking losing a position at this time, Joe.
Oh, and Stefan Overgaard was just off, actually. He had exited the pits, and he made a mistake on those cold tires coming through turn 2 and 3. Not sure if we can get a yeah, we're on replay now. And this was just complete driver error. You can see him just slithering off the track. And thankfully, that grass is very slippery, by the way. It's so easy to put it into the wall there. It's one of the danger zones. And just is going to have to slow the car down now to give that time back from getting a cut course penalty. But no harm, no foul. This could be a road in for David DeRoche, though. And actually, he's trying to get by an MP4 that was just off and just narrowly avoided. That was Diago Falcomer, actually, who almost ran into our potential leader in the C2 class.
Yeah, I'm watching David DeRoche right now. I don't see Stefan Overgaard on the screen yet, so I think he is past him at this time. I believe he is. Yeah, that's just one of those things that we've talked about throughout the race, Joe. Those little mistakes that even Stefan Overgaard's made once today has come back to haunt him again, and now he has to play catch-up once again. So David DeRoche, followed by all those HPD cars, is now the C2 leader in this race.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, Richard.
Well, I was just going to say that Stefan Overgaard at Road Atlanta is no stranger to accidents. Remember the spectacular accident he had when his computer broke down during the middle of a race. That was a Continental Endurance race. He was running in an MX-5, and he crossed the track in front of everybody, and I was in that race as well, and I think it happened just in front of me, and slammed into the wall at 120 miles an hour or something. So he's had his moments at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, I seem to recall in the MX-5 World Tour him having a little bit of issues here too, but nothing too particularly bad. I guess maybe Road Atlanta is not his favorite track, or at least it doesn't like him as much as he likes it. So unfortunately for Stefan Overgaard, it's going to be another incident that's going to hold him back today.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I want to keep half an eye on David DeRoche to see when he pits, because I'm not sure exactly how much time he lost. Let's check the lap times, or at least I'm going to check the lap times of Overgaard really quick. To see how much, well, it's going to be difficult because he had just come out of the pits, so hard to say exactly how much time he lost there. He ran a 2:07 on his pit out, which is relatively slow. So we're going to just have to watch and wait and see what exactly is gonna happen between himself and DeRoche once DeRoche heads into the pits.
Yeah, Joe, and I'm
Well,
also thinking, sorry, Richard, that Yuka Savati also pitted just recently, so we're a little bit early for the pit window. I believe the pit window is going to open up in another 15 minutes. So unless something went wrong with Yuka, it seems like he's a little early for a pit stop as well.
We're getting some stats here. Stefan Oergaard had a 7-second gap before the pit stops, and he had a 29.4 on the last pit. So that gives us some information to kind of go on as far as pit times at least, and see where David DeRoche is going to fall on that. Since you did mention,
we have a massive accident here. Who is that?
Yuka
This is
Savati.
on the. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was Yuka Savati. We need to get to a replay that. That was coming out of turn 5, yet another danger zone, and he's going to be coming up to that soon. And took out, who was that? Lars Conrad, actually, in that mess. That you can see him coming up behind him now as they come around 4, and they should be coming through the S's. We should let's get back on. Yeah, Yuka Savati coming up through the S's there, now into 5, and you can see just goes a little wide and got on the power, touched the grass, and that sent him spinning across the track, just clipped, and flying through the air as more cars take to the grass to try and avoid him. That's Mark Mucky and I think Pomerade just behind him that they were trying to avoid. So, wow, spectacular crash. That's not the first time we've seen a driver absolutely flying through the air in this series from an accident.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to Virginia International Raceway when Troy Schultz went through the air like a helicopter after coming out of pit road on cold tires. Yuka Savati, we were just talking about the race that he had a little bit of an early second pit stop, and must have been the cold tires. He went a little wide there, losing traction over that curve and then spinning across the grass in front of Manuel Sanchez and Albert Denealing, and then of course taking out Lars Conrad and just nearly missing where the few HPDs behind him. So that was a very scary moment on the track for sure, Richard.
Well, we've had a very touchy moment here. If we get the cameras on Manuel Sanchez and, in fact, the HPD in front of him, Nicholas Pomerat was really close to Mark Mucky there, coming into the approach to turn number 6. But he got caught up with the C2 driver there, and there was nearly an exit coming into 7. So he managed to avoid it by some spectacular. He just yanked the wheel on that HPD, and with the downforce managed to get away with it. But that was touch and go there. Now Lars Conrad has had an opportunity to catch up. So we're starting to get a battle happening here, Joe, in the C1 class with Mark Mucky, Nicholas Pomerat, and Lars Conrad pretty close to each other.
I'll tell you what, Lars Conrad must have like steel bolted onto his HPD or something there, because he's missing his hood after earlier contact that I believe got him a penalty. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to go back and check that. Excuse me if I got that wrong. And then now that huge fast contact, although I guess it must have been just a glancing blow with the way he's able to continue on as he's trying to get through once again a mess of cars. But after 2 major contacts and missing some major bodywork, he's still out there and in 4th place to boot.
He's driving the wheels off this thing, as they say. But he's in this case, he's driven the hood off the thing, because as he comes up to, that would be the leader of the C3 class. Well, not the leader, but Andreas Olmensberger. He got caught behind him as we see a car going into pits. That's Mark Mucky by the looks of it, and now he gets an opportunity to pass him. Yeah, hats off to Lars Conrad. I thought when you were talking about steel, you were going to say something else that's made of steel, but thank goodness you didn't.
Yeah, he might have a bit of those as well, I think. But Andreas Olmensberger, interesting. You mentioned leader. He is currently leading in the C3 class ahead of Patrick Pitchler, and João Cardoso must have taken his pit because he is a ways back at this point. So I think we must have missed that. I'm checking the laps real quick on João, and yeah, it looks like he's missing a lap somewhere in there. Unless he had a connection issue on that one. I'm checking real quick to see if that's just a connection problem. So, it looks like he did take his pit stop. So interestingly, even though he did take his pit stop, it was about 15 seconds longer than a normal pit stop. So he might have actually lost the lead unless he's just taken a short stop previously, or everybody else has been taking short stops and he took a long stint for this last one. So more developments in the C3 class as Andreas Almensberger leads the way. Not far behind is Patrick Pitchler, and then Tom Valentini sitting in third. Speaking of developments in various classes, that promotes Albert Denieling up into fourth at the moment with Yuka Savati's accident, Brian. So Albert Denieling, who qualified in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, if I'm counting correctly, up into fourth. A very nice day for him.
Yeah, and that also gives Manuel Sanchez the third place spot. And I gotta say, Manuel is having a good race now. If he can make it to the end without it doing a quick splash and go, he's gonna actually be on the podium, starting from almost the back of the field. So, big day for Manuel Sanchez as well, Joe. Also, I want to say on lap 76, we can make it official. Yuka Savati is withdrawn from the race with the damage to his car being terminal. I don't think anybody expected him to repair it and try and go back out after that kind of contact, but we just got to say what a great run it was for him today. Ran third place most of the race, was very quick, and just had a good run overall until that fatal accident happened. So unfortunately, Mr. Savati is out of the race and looking to see next season, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and a bit of an update on the cars that are continuing to be out, as I think we saw Dirk Fetterman actually go off track in the C3 class. Jan Ruling is out of the race. Kevin O'Keefe, João Vaz, Didier Chabrol, Frederick Batty, Iker Estefania, Nacho Lamorti, and as you said, now Yuka Savati has exited the race. So a number of cars are out in this 3-hour enduro around Road Atlanta final round of the EnduroPro Series. Don't forget, you can get in contact with us through Twitter at GSR Channel. And what was that, Richard? I didn't hear who you said it was in the pits.
Leader in the pits. C1 leader coming to the pits, Robert Tinsley.
So, developments on that side as he works his way in, and Mark Muckey continues to stay out in second, and Nicholas Pomerade is in third, who also does not pit. So those guys going just a little bit longer. We've got an hour and 14 left to go, still quite a bit, and I think they're going to have one more pit stop after this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, they should. I'm just checking now. Let's see. So Mark Muckey, I thought Mark Muckey had pitted earlier. Must have been someone else. So Mark Muckey effectively might lead this race, depending. He's coming around now to the straightaway. Where is Robert Tinsley coming out? Oh no, Robert Tinsley is easily going to maintain the lead of this race, coming out of the pits right now. Mark Muckey in second place, still way back. He has to pass a back marker here, Sylvain Pomerade, sorry, as he does that now, and behind him, Robert Tinsley easily still in charge of this race.
So I suppose actually, since Mark Muckey was a lap down earlier, and Robert Tinsley, so I think Mark Muckey and Nicholas Pomerade have both done their pit stops already from what I'm seeing on that. See if we can get some confirmation on that. Also, I hear that Overgaard had a very scary moment somewhere along the line.
Yeah, he's coming out of the bottom of the S's on, I believe, lap 79, lap 80, and he almost had an identical moment as Yuka Savati did, where he was coming out of the S's a little wide and a little hot, started oversteering and hit that bump where the sand is actually connected to the corner there, and almost took it right to the wall. Unlike Savati, though, Overgaard was able to get on the brakes and recognize pretty quickly that he was in trouble, slowed the car down just enough to keep all of the tires onto the pavement. He lost quite a bit of time in the process, but his car is clean and he's able to get going again. So right now, Overgaard's still enjoying a pretty hefty lead here on lap 81.
Exactly. And as I was mentioning earlier, if you want to get a hold of us, tweet us at GSR Channel. And we'd love to hear your comments and thoughts. Also, follow us and the EnduroPro Series at EnduroPro Series. Give them your thoughts, your praise, your criticisms. They are very open and willing to improve this series. They're a great bunch of guys that have run this. They put in a bunch of hours, and we have to give them so much credit to Mario Beaudry and Marc-Andre Povin for putting this together, as well as their sponsor, Sim Seats, for making this an excellent series. You can see that on the screen now. Definitely give sim-seats.com a look-see and check out their products. So as we continue to watch Stefan Oergaard, who is currently scored in the lead, because I believe David DeRoche has not pitted yet. Has he pitted actually? He has pitted, so he did not make inroads. In fact, the gap looks bigger now between himself and Stefan Oergaard. So whatever mistakes that Oergaard has made, Brian, it doesn't seem to have hurt him too much.
Yeah, Oergaard, I don't know where exactly he made up all that time, but it seems like the traffic is thinned out. He's just hot lapping right now. So right now, Oergaard's enjoying that big lead. He's quite a ways away. If you go to the blimp shot, you might be able to get an idea of how far the gap is. So right now, it looks like Oergaard is going to enjoy it. And I do think he did have a short pit stop, if I read these race notes right, Joe. So that might be the reason why he got such a big margin between him and David. I believe it's something like 29.4 seconds versus 31.2 seconds. So right there's a pretty big gap in itself. So Oergaard just being consistent, running out by himself. I don't see him slowing down anytime soon, except for that little mistake he had. And right now, enjoying that big lead, like we said before.
Now, I'm looking at the cars that I mentioned earlier that have exited the race. I find it interesting. We're seeing sort of a return to what we saw at the start of the season, which was a high attrition rate for the C1 class, because right now the most cars out of any class is in the HPDs, with Iker Estefania, Didier Chabrol, João Vaz, and Jan Ruling being our 4 that have exited from the HPDs. Meanwhile, though, thankfully, we've had a large number of HPDs show up today, because we still have 7 of them still out there circulating between Robert Tinsey, Mark Mucky, Nicholas Pomerade, Lars Conrad, Sylvain Pomerade, Hayden Burns, and Gregory Caritas. However, only 4 of them are on the lead lap, Lars Conrad being the last one able to do it, which is pretty impressive, as we said, with his front of his car still missing out there, and Sylvain Pomerade being the first car a lap down, sitting in 5th. So they have definitely spread out, but there are guys that have made up some spots for sure by just simply staying in it. Mark Mucky especially, Richard. I know we keep harping on this, but boy, what a run for him today. And it's going to pay off by rewarding him another position in the championship, I believe, as long as he can keep out there and finish with some points. But Mark Mucky up in a second after qualifying 6.
Yes, but don't discount Nicholas Pomerade. Nicholas Pomerade, they're working their way through traffic at the moment. He's caught up a lot of time now on Mark Mucky. He was 5 seconds back at the beginning of this lap, and the gap can't be more than about half a second right now. But I do believe Mark Mucky is faster than Nicholas Pomerade. He's put in a 1 minute 13 on his last lap, and Nicholas only a 1 minute 14. So that's a full second. Mind you, look at it now. As Mark Mucky must have got a slowdown or something, because he's being passed by Nicholas Pomerade.
No, I believe that that was a lapped car.
Oh, sorry. I got all excited for nothing.
I was starting to think the same thing, and then I realized, oh no, that's Sylvain Pomerade. And actually, those are we're still trying to figure out exactly what the relation is between those two, sharing the same last name. But they definitely were working together, because Sylvain was very generous in letting him by. I want to get up to Robert Tinsey though, because we haven't given him a whole lot of screen time since he's been leading so dominantly. 31 seconds that I'm seeing between himself and Mark Mucky, and I really hope I'm not putting the commentator's curse on Robert, because I know he was really gutted. We had some technical issues at the round at Montreal, and that was the race that Robert Tinsey finally was able to win after João Vaz had been so dominant through most of the races. And he had an opportunity a few weeks ago at Barber, but was not able to hold on to it, and Mark Mucky took it away from him. So hopefully hoping for Robert Tinsley that maybe he can have some good luck today and maybe get to actually see his win on screen this time.
Yeah, Robert Tinsley has been poetry in motion, I must say. Most of his laps have been just beautifully clean, and he's put his stamp on this race. We still got an hour to go, or more than just over an hour to go. So he's done an hour and 52 minutes. So still a whole hour to go. That's a long, long time. But can't fault him at this stage, leading by 33 seconds over Mark Mucky, who is no slouch. Nicholas Pomerade has been doing a great job as well. This is a fantastic race from him as he comes up onto the back of Stefan Overgaard. Stefan Overgaard stays hard left, allows him to pass easily. And Stefan Overgaard, by the way, doing a great job as well. He's had his problems, but certainly he's done a great job. But back to Robert Tinsley. Fantastic job, and I hope that he keeps it up and wins this race.
Yeah, and despite his mistakes, sometimes all that matters is if you're in the lead or not, and that's what's happening with Stefan Overgaard. Meanwhile, let's jump back to Hayden Burns sitting in 6th. He has been hunting down Sylvain Pomerade and was very close a moment ago. The traffic has started to separate him. Look at him really dive up there. Oh, that was
close.
A late move. And that's actually...
close.
Hasn't allowed him to get closer, but Andreas Almensberger, who was the leader in the C3 class, now has his teammate of Patrick Pitchler all over the back of him because of that move. That was a big heads up for Andreas Almensberger to see that one coming and not dive into that apex.
Well, I gotta tell you, Andreas Almensberger must be gonna have a change of underclothes when he gets out of that car, because that was as close as it gets to being a big accident.
Oh, that I kind of figured that maybe that was coming because he wanted to hold on to Sylvain, but man, that was gutsy, that's for sure. In the meantime, this has definitely made the battle for the lead and the C3 class all the more interesting, even though they're all teammates. These guys that we've seen throughout the season are always fighting each other, and they don't have João Cardojo anywhere near them at this moment. As you can see, 1, 2, 3 Pure Racing Team cars all in black and blue leading each other, with Andreas Almensberger leading them, Patrick Pitchler sitting in 2nd, and Tom Valentini in 3rd. In fact, Valentini has a good run coming down the backstretch, but he starts to pull out of it as he can see an HPD coming up behind him and lets him on through.
Well, just getting back to the battle here between Hayden Burns, who we mentioned was having a quiet race. He is seeing red at the moment. He has got Sylvain Pomerade fully in his sights, and he has plans to make a move on him. You can see it in the attitude of his car right now as they go through the S's. He closes up on the back. Sylvain made a good exit out of the last turn coming onto the start finish and got ahead of him. But look at him now as they go through 5. He's right on the back of him. Look for him to make a move. Whoa, he's going to make a move right here. No, he backs out of it, decides that he'll wait, and that actually has hurt his chances as he closes up once again, coming out of 7 and going down the front straight. But he didn't get a good exit there, and Sylvain will manage to hold it down to the chicane. However, the draft is kicking in. Look at him catch him, and looks like he's going to make a move on the inside. He goes to the inside. He's going to get it done. Yes, he might get. Yes, he gets it done. Great move. Good overtake.
Yes, classic move, but it doesn't look like Sylvain is going to sit down and take it because he is still all over the back of Hayden's car. And look at that yellow HPD really all over that rear spoiler. He takes a look into the inside of one. There's no place to do it right there with being so far back, still a car length between them. He's going to get other opportunities if he can hold on to it as he drops back with a bit of a bobble out of 1, closing in through 2 and 3, and now once again stretching out. So his chance may have gone as he had a bit of a close look earlier, but just can't keep the pace as it looks like Hayden is really stretching the gap now.
Yeah, this is amazing. Hayden didn't look to have much speed at all and was easily lapped early on in the race, but looks like at the tail end of well, I wouldn't say the tail end, but certainly 2 hours into the race, Hayden Burns coming into his own overtaking Sylvain Pomerad in a classic move on the inside going into the chicane, and now looking like he's running away from Sylvain Pomerad. So kudos to him.
Absolutely. I think it's pretty clear by now that he has got the pace on Sylvain at this point in the race, although we are still only 2/3 into it. We've got an hour left to go. And one thing that I want to mention, Hayden Burns qualified ninth, so he has worked his way up into fifth with that move. So a top 5 out of this race is nothing to scoff at, that's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're gonna have a look later on at Gregory Caradis, another one of the so-called backmarkers who's done really, really well in this race. But it looks like we're single file. I'll just take a look at what Robert's doing. Robert is running by himself, coming up on traffic once again. Mark Mucky, very, very quiet at the moment, just running by himself, and perhaps that's a good thing at this late stage of the race. So things quiet in the HPD class. What's happening on your side of town, Brian?
Well, right now it doesn't look like the C2 class is open to too much competition. It seems like we're pretty spread out, so there's nothing to report out of the ordinary at the moment. Stefan Overgaard still in the lead, followed by David DeRoche in second place, and Manuel Sanchez trying to catch up to David DeRoche in second place. He's currently sitting in third, just a little ways out yet, but we'll keep an eye on this battle as it happens here in the future.
Yeah, there's about a 16-second gap between Stefan Overgaard and David DeRoche. Meanwhile, between DeRoche and Sanchez, it looks like they've got about 8 seconds between themselves. So those guys got some breathing room, but once again, we can see mistakes do count. And even though Stefan has gotten away from it, he's not going to be able to afford any spins or damage at this point because DeRoche is keeping him honest. And Sanchez, wow, starting from the pits, up into the podium position and not too far behind David DeRoche. We'll have to keep an eye on that gap and see if it starts to close down because Sanchez, actually I'm trying to figure out how far behind Overgaard Sanchez is. It looks like 51, trying to do some math in my head. So he's actually lost time to Stefan Overgaard since I last looked at that gap, but it hasn't been a significant amount, so they seem fairly close in pace between Sanchez and Overgaard. So a win might not be on the cards, but Sanchez could still move himself up into second, depending on if he can close the gap to David DeRoche.
Well, guys, let me just jump in here quickly and tell you that Robert Tinsey passed the 4th place position of Lars Conrad. Put a lap on him, and now he's passing the 3 leaders of the C3 class again. And Lars Conrad, an amazing race from this guy. He has managed with that broken car to hang on and still be in 4th place at this stage. And it doesn't look like he's losing any time at this point to Robert Tinsey, although Robert shoots away as we see Conrad coming into the pits right now. But 3 cars only on the lead lap left, Joe.
Yeah, and I think this might be the final pit for Lars Conrad. We've got 58 minutes left to go, so I think as long as he's not sucking up too much fuel, he should be able to make it to the end from here as we watch Robert Tinsey continue to lead the way with a whole 31-second lead over Mark Mucky.
Yeah, I wonder if Lars is going to get a new hood, or new front end, I should say.
Well, hopefully we'll find out soon. In the meantime, with 2/3 of the race gone, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back in a moment and update you on where the standings are. We apologize. We're going to have just a slightly extended break. We will be back shortly. Welcome back to the final round in the EnduroPro Series held at Road Atlanta. This 3-hour race has been grueling and has certainly picked off a few drivers, but not Patrick Pitchler, who we were currently watching leading C3, with Andreas Allmensberger and Tom Valentini, both of them teammates, following close behind. Now, they've been following close for quite a while. I find it interesting that I haven't really seen any moves made because they know that Pitchler is going to need every point he can to try and win this championship. I'm wondering if we're finally seeing team tactics come into play. But real quick, let's go through the standings. Top 5 in each. Robert Tinsey leading in overall and in C1. Mark Muckey is in second, 25 seconds back. Nicholas Pomerade is in third. Hayden Burns sitting in fourth. Sylvain Pomerade in fifth. And Sylvain Pomerade sitting in fifth, since we're only going through the top 5. What is the C2 class looking like?
Excuse me. In C2, we got Stefan Overgaard in the lead, David Garoche in second. In third, we have Manuel Sanchez. In fourth, we have Albert the Kneeling. And in fifth, we have
Whoa!
Stello.
We just had a big bubble by the C3 of Andres Olmensberger. He just lost second place.
And let's see if we can get a replay of that. I believe that was once again coming up to the treacherous turn 5, it looks like.
Yeah, yep. Actually, it was just past turn 5.
We're looking at the replay of Allmensberger now coming down through the S's, followed closely behind Tom Valentini. And this is just such a dangerous place to be pushing the car that little percent over. And you can see, wow, yeah, coming out of the exit once again. You spin those tires, you lose that back end. And you can lose so much time. Where is João Cardoso, though? He's still behind him, so Andreas is still holding on to third, but João Cardoso now has a whiff of one of these 3 pure racing cars, that's for sure.
Well, that's right, and I'd like to see João Cardoso get up there and do battle with these guys, because they have been sitting pretty for, oh gosh, it must be an hour or more. Running sort of just in close proximity to each other, but not actually battling each other. But now, João Cardoso looking pretty pacey as he has Andreas Olmensberger in his sights, Joe. And I think we are going to get what we asked for. It's 45 minutes to go yet, and he is getting on the back of this group now.
Yeah, as we watch João Cardoso, we can stay on this, but I also want to touch on C2 because Manuel Sanchez, I've been noticing, Brian, has been cutting that gap down bit by bit.
Yeah, Manuel Sanchez has been just throwing down one hot lap after the next. His last was a 117.6. I'm not sure where that compares to other drivers, but that is pretty quick for a car around Road Atlanta. He has been also managing traffic very well. I just caught, I believe, a lap down Corvette in the front of my camera, so he's been lapping the field slowly or slowly by slowly each lap. But right now he's doing very well, and I'm just getting some information from our director right now. DeRoche did a 1:17.9, and Overgaard's running 1:17.5. So right now he's running the pace of the champions here at Road Atlanta. And if he could just keep the mistakes to a minimum, as we see him going on pit road now, he'll be able to make up that time and hopefully make a stab at the top three position, or excuse me, top two or top position. It really will come down to right here, though. How long is his pit stop going to be? We know his pit schedule is a little off, so that's going to hurt him a lot. But it should still get him a podium finish if he keeps his pace up, Joe.
Absolutely, and now we've switched off of him, but we are looking at the leader. Whoa, actually dipping off into the grass just a little bit as Stefan Overgaard loses a little bit of time, but is able to keep going. He's got a decent gap between himself and DeRoche. In fact, I'm looking at it, and it looks like it is nearly 30 seconds, if I'm reading that right. No, 20, it's 16 seconds. So my math is way off this morning. In the meantime, David DeRoche is being hunted down by Manuel Sanchez. The difference is now that Sanchez has put his pit stop in, it could be that DeRoche could get jumped by Sanchez in the pits. So once DeRoche heads in, you'll have to butt in, Brian, and let us know what's happening there.
Well, I'm going to bump in real quick, actually, Joe, because Stefan Overgaard's in the pits for his stop, so we might see a three-way something, or switcheroo or something if everyone gets a good lap in here.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind that that Overgaard has been doing short stops, and he overshot his pit.
Yes, you had to back into the pit, so that's going to lose some time.
Never what you want to happen. It's such a simple mistake to do, but it's so easy to do. And that's going to cost him just that little bit. DeRoche, as we said, was a far way back. Just as DeRoche was exiting, Stefan was entering his pit. So I don't think that there's really any threat with the 16-second gap that we mentioned earlier, unless Stefan's going to have a long stop. And he does not as he exits now. And he had a 29.93 stop is what we're hearing. David DeRoche is definitely not going to have any sort of answer for him in hopes of trying to overtake that lead at this point. Manuel Sanchez continues on around. The big one that we got to watch is David DeRoche. When is he going to stop? 42 minutes left to go. We are within the final pit window. We just don't know when he plans, Brian.
Yeah, and if I'm looking at this right, we're on lap 103, so these guys have done over 100 laps here at Road Atlanta. Very grueling, 101, I believe it is. Very grueling nonetheless at Road Atlanta, a very complicated and tricky track, as we have said. And I get that wrong once again. It's 111 for the drivers. So again, very, very tiring experience here nonetheless.
Yeah, and we're getting some information as well on the championship situation. Sanchez doesn't really have to worry about the championship at this point. He should have been able to get it, especially with how many cars have dropped out. However, between DeRoche and Overgaard, there is a scant 7 points in the championship. So these guys are definitely need to worry about, DeRoche, who is currently scored in the lead. However, he should be slotting behind Overgaard once Stefan, or should be slotting behind Overgaard once David DeRoche goes in for his pit stop. So DeRoche and Overgaard, as long as Overgaard retains this lead, he should be able to hold on to his second place, but he can't make any mistakes because I believe the point swing should allow DeRoche to take over that second position in the championship.
Guys, can I just jump in very quickly here before you guys go on to that? Lars Conrad, just watched him come into the pits, and he stopped in his pit stall and then just retired.
It's unfortunate to see. I did notice him going in on an unscheduled stop, I believe, earlier. And I guess since he's actually 3 laps down, I'm seeing from Gregory Caritas. So I don't think Yeah, he's got no one to fight at this point. 40 minutes of racing left to go. I mean, he could always get some spots if some of the guys in front have some accidents, but with that much damage on his car, I kind of don't blame him. He's probably pretty worn out after 2 and some odd hours to have to have been wheeling that poor car around here.
And there's some action also in C3. A bunch of them came into pits. João Cardoso, Andreas Olmensberger. João has actually exited the pits, Joe, before Andreas. So he's moved up a spot, and he would have the other guy in front of him, Patrick Pilcher. They were all three in the pits together. So the action is on, the battle is on, I should say, and we are going to see some fireworks here.
As we watch this, just a quick mention, Tom Valentini has stopped into his pit stall as well, so he is going to get cycled back down as Patrick Kitcheler should retake the lead. But now he's got João Cardoso right behind him, trying to hunt him down. We've seen this situation before, and you cannot discount João. He is incredibly fast and incredibly consistent. He is immaculate most days. We've only seen a handful of mistakes from him before, particularly a few weeks ago at Barber when he got some damage and wasn't able to chase down Patrick to take the win. The question is, can he do it today? Because I don't believe either of them have damage on their car, so it's just a straight out fight between these guys to the finish.
And the other teammates, of course, could play a part as well. If one of them could manage to get ahead, which I think we were talking about earlier may have been the plan, but that plan is upset now as the other two teammates are out of the picture. In fact, Andreas Olmensberger is a little ways back, quite a ways back actually, from João Cardoso.
I take that back. Unusually, Tom Valentini has come out ahead of Patrick Pitchler. Now, here's a question. Does he let his teammate by and act as a buffer between himself and Cardoso, or does he continue to hold the lead? That's what I'm curious to see here. In the past, they've raced as if, the two drivers are just racing for, to enjoy the racing and not acting necessarily as teammates. And João Cardoso is all over the back of Pitchler this time. So this could have not championship implications, but race implications as far as who can win this one.
Well, that's right. And if you ask me, João Cardoso has plans to overtake both of these guys as he pulls right onto the back, having a look to see Pilcher goes by. Pilcher goes by Valentini, so that may have been arranged right there. But João Cardoso on the back of Valentini now, and now these guys can act as a buffer and block the road for Cardoso. I wonder if they would do that. That would be kind of unfair.
Well, I'm pretty certain. I mean, I don't know for sure. I want to stress that, but I'm pretty certain that he was letting his teammate by, knowing that he has to win, and João Cardoso can't get any points for Patrick Pitchler to have a hope of winning this championship. And boy, it certainly helped get him a gap, because they had the HPD of Gregory Caritas get between himself and Tom Valentini and João Cardoso. And now it looks like it's between Cardoso and Valentini, and I bet you that Valentini is going to make life as difficult as possible for Cardoso to get by.
And I guess that's part of racing. That's why you have teams. But I think Cardoso's up to it. Cardoso has proven. I mean, this is not the first time he's racing with this very team, so he's up to it. He might actually be enjoying it. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, I guarantee you he enjoys the thrill of this. He takes a look on the inside coming to the chicane, and now they've closed all the way back up. So Valentini has been able to use the draft or possibly some traffic to get back onto his teammate. But still, he's able to act as a buffer. And at this point, I agree with you. I think João Cardoso knows that he's able to get this. He's got 36 minutes left to try and make something happen. I don't think it's a slam dunk. But between himself and Valentini, I'm not gonna bet against João Cardoso to try and get by and manage to get by at some point.
Well, we'll certainly keep an eye on this battle. This battle will only get more interesting and frantic as time goes on. We are getting to the back end of, whoa, that was, is that Mark Mucky that just flew by there? It was indeed just splitting all three of them. That was pretty close. He got really close to João Cardoso there, but no contact and therefore no problem. So let's see. Does is as he passed the others, Cardoso back into line and back on the back of Mr. Tom Valentini. So this battle is on, as we were saying, Joe. This is going to get more interesting as the laps wind down. We are now on lap 105 for these cars. As we have a bobble there from Valentini, this should give Cardoso an opportunity. Can he do anything coming out of the final turn into the start finish? He cannot.
Yeah, but he's got the draft, and look at Valentini going defensive. João Cardoso moves to the inside. Is he going to be able to make the pass? Valentini gives him the room, but manages to keep it out of the grass, and Cardoso decides not to go too aggressive and backs out of the move.
Yeah, that was pretty good driving there from Valentini. Pretty difficult to keep a line going on the outside there. But then again, too wide through turn one is not advised for you players at home. Don't do it at Road Atlanta. You can catch a lot of grief. But these two guys did it successfully. But then again, they are very, very, very good drivers. So the battle is on. We will keep an eye on this. Do we need to? Oh, and Valentini has lost it. And João Cardoso takes that position into 5, or was that 6? 7. Valentini had a big bubble, Joe, and he lost that position. Now let's see, what can Cardoso do about getting to Pilcher?
Well, I'm thinking that Tom Valentini is not a big fan of David Bowie and Queen right now, because being under pressure has definitely not helped him, as he made 2 mistakes and within a lap, and that has lost him the position. So João Cardoso, as you said, now has a bit of a ways to go to get up to Patrick Pichler, but it's not very far. Pichler has to keep the mistakes himself out of here to be able to hold back that Portuguese driver who's really desperate to try and work his way up there. So I was wanting to go back to Brian, but we seem to have just a couple technical problems. But I did note that Manuel Sanchez was not able to jump David DeRoche in the pit stops, as David has now taken his stop. And looking at the times, it's still about 5 seconds between them. So it must have been a very good stop, or possibly some traffic or a mistake separating them by just a little bit more. So not really a battle going on there. Let's stick with this one that we actually can see on screen between Patrick Pichler and João Cardoso, as DeRoche has split the two of them at the moment.
Quite correct, and I think the gap is reducing. I may be incorrect here. I'll actually have a look at the gap between Cardoso. It's 1 second at the moment between Pichler and Cardoso. We'll see this time by what it is, but visually it seems to me he's catching Pichler.
Yeah, that's kind of been the case for most of the season, so we'll see what it is this time by. Yeah, I can see that he is closer than he was last time by. Where is the gap? It is just about a second, so it's about the same, but it certainly looked closer than before. So I want to stick with this because this has been a thrilling battle, and even though all that Cardoso has to do is just stick where he is and he's won the championship, I have a feeling he's not going to settle for that.
Absolutely not. You can see the attitude of the car right there. He's trying very hard, and he's got the bit between the teeth now. He is going to try and beat. What better way to win a championship or to finish off a series than with a win? So he's very close now, Joe. I would suggest to you that within a lap or two, they're going to be battling they're going to be battling hard with each other, is what I want to say.
Yeah, and he's dropped back just a little bit with the accordion effect, but the draft is, I think he's got a whiff of it. He's close enough that he's at least staying neutral to Patrick Pichler at this point, now under braking for that excellent passing zone into the chicane. Both of them just running an immaculate line through there. They know that they've got to run perfect laps from here on out. And let's see what it is this time across the line. Looking at it, it is just under a second. He looks a lot closer than that, that's for sure, as they come through turn 1, now up into the very tricky turns 2 and 3. Very hard to spot that apex. It's so easy to get a cut course penalty on either side of that chicane.
That's true. What does tend to happen though is if you do enough practice laps, you get to know exactly where you got to turn in, how much braking you have to do. And if you look at these guys, that was just a touch of the brakes into three, into three, and then back on the power again and taking the hard left into the S's. So he's a lot closer now, Joe, no doubt about it. In fact, the draft should pull him right up onto the rear of Pitchler, and the battle is on. You talk about this or have a look at it. I'm going to see what the other guys are doing in the C1 class.
Oh, he definitely gained on the draft that time around, and especially under braking. Oh, it's going to be way less than a second this time, as he is about 2 or 3 car lengths. We are now on board with João Cardoso coming around the fast right-hander of the final corner, turn 12, and across the start-finish line. This time by, it is about 3/10 between these drivers. He really cut the gap on that lap, although he was helped by the draft. Now coming up to 2 and 3, not really a passing zone. He's just going to hold up as we see the brake lights come on that MP4 of Patrick Pitchler. Now down through the S's, very line sensitive through here. Have to get it right. And up through tricky turn 5 that has definitely caught out, I think, the most drivers that we've seen throughout the day, as guys have just ended their day. Now he's got a real good run, but he's got an HPD coming through on the right side, and that really neutralizes his chance to try and make a pass through there. Doesn't matter, because now is really the time that he's going to want to try and execute that pass onto the backstretch.
Yeah, that was Hayden Burns coming through, and he is right there at the moment. He's in the draft now. What does Pitchler do? Pitchler goes defensive. You can see it. And Cardoso on the outside. He's got more speed, carrying more speed. Pitchler goes in deep, under braking. And actually Cardoso backs out there. He could have, he could have forced the issue there, but he decided not to. And so he's got to do it all over again because he's actually lost some time there.
Well, now he's got Manuel Sanchez behind him, and he's going to split them as he breezes past on the front straightaway, compromises his line just slightly, and Sanchez almost, wow, he really slides all the way out to the curb there. I was afraid that he was going to run out of track, but manages to hold on to it. Have to remember, Sanchez is trying to run down DeRoche as well, although there's a large gap between them, and 28 minutes left to go for him to try and execute that, but he's certainly split these two C3 leaders who are our closest battle for the lead as far as the 3 classes go so far.
Yeah, we've got some good battles going on. Pretty much the C3 class has offered us the best battle, particularly in this race. I'm amazed, Joe, that after nearly 3 hours, well, 2.5 hours of racing, that these guys are still so sharp, because surely by now they must be quite tired. As we see, Cardoso, with all the faster cars coming through, has lost a bit of time to Pitchler, but Pitchler now has to go through that same situation that Cardoso went through with the faster cars coming through. It should give Cardoso an opportunity to get back onto the rear of Pitchler, but Pitchler seems to say, well, look, I've got this guy on my tail. I'm going to give it everything I've got to stay ahead of him.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be just letting people by at this point. And, you know, that's something where these guys and the other classes need to kind of be a little bit aware. If they have a spotter or a crew chief, they need to be informing them, this guy is battling for the lead. Don't press the issue, because he's probably not going to want to give way, that's for sure. Last time by, it was 1.5 seconds now between Pitchler and João Cardoso. So these guys, 2.5, I'm getting word. So even more than that between our 2 leaders in the C3 class. He lost a lot of time with that traffic, but we saw him close that up before over a matter of laps, and I don't doubt that he's going to do it all over again.
Yeah, and just whilst we're talking about that, let me give an update on the C2 class. Stefan Overgaard still leading this class, but he's now 11 seconds ahead of De Roche. So at one stage it was 14 or 15 seconds, or even 16, I think we mentioned. That's cut down to 11 seconds. So either Stefan Overgaard's taken it a little bit easy because 16 or 14 or 13 or 11 is a lot of seconds to make up in the time that is left. Manuel Sanchez, on the other hand, he's about 7 seconds behind the roast. So those guys are pretty much in line at the moment. Pretty quiet there. So back to you, Joe.
Yeah, and how nice would it be for Stefan Overgaard if he can come home with the win? Because that would bookend the series, or at least this first season, with wins for him. Remember, he won took that surprise win at Daytona in the first round when I think it was Manuel Sanchez actually that had problems, or I'm trying to remember who it was exactly that had a nearly last lap accident that cost him the win. And if Stefan Overgaard wins that one, it means he won the first round and the last round. He also won at Road America, so he's got 2 wins total. He could make it a third if he can bring it home today, but it'll make up for the mid-season slump that he was experiencing earlier, that's for sure.
Well, that's right. And there isn't any nicer person in our knowledge that we would like to see win. Not that the other guys are not nice, but we have an affinity with Stefan Overgaard, I don't mind admitting, because we see him in so many of the series that we do broadcast, and it would be fitting for him to win the first and last. But it's not over yet. No fat ladies around that I've seen that has been singing any song, so it ain't over yet.
And I was going to say, that's not, of course, influenced at all by the fact that he is an AMS teammate of yours, is it?
Well, okay.
That's okay, we'll grant you that. We do want to mention, since we've got about 25 minutes left to go, don't forget to check out sim-seats.com, the official sponsor of the EnduroPro series. They've done a lot and put prizes forward, and there are monetary prizes for the championship. Don't forget, these guys are working for money out there. Even though it is sim racing, this money is as real as it gets. So Stefan Overgaard, who you see on your screen, I can't remember exactly how much podium finishers in the championship will be winning, but he will get himself a little bit of change in his pocket, that's for sure. So let's jump back to Patrick Pitchler and João Cardoso, because that gap once again has closed down. Let's see what it was last time by the line. Looks like it was about a second and a half, but it is right now less than half a second between them. You can see on screen just how much he's closed up. Like I said before, he's got the pace, does João Cardoso, and he's been closing in. Yeah, I can see just about 0.5 between himself and Patrick Pitchler as they crossed the line. He's going to have an opportunity. I think, once again, it's going to come down to that back stretch, Richard.
Yeah, and they are going through the S's now. They take the second part of the S's. They brake hard here for the entry into turn 5, which is a very difficult off-camber turn. You've got some sand, a sand trap on the right-hand side. They negotiate that pretty well, as we see an HPD coming through once again to split them, and that has been the issue for João Cardoso. Can he make use of this HPD now to get a bit of draft from the HPD, as well as to get on the back of Pitchler? Pitchler, however, did pull out a little further ahead as they come down the straight, Joe, so not going to get done this time.
Yeah, I think that HPD unfortunately screwed things up just a little bit for João Cardoso. He's going to get more chances with still 22 minutes left to go now. As they come through the chicane, you can see he just closes up around there. He's very good, very clean through that chicane. I'm impressed with João's line through there. Now across the start-finish line once again. And whatever he had lost, he seems to have made up, because it's still about half a second as they cross the line. So, again, this is for the lead in the C3 class between Patrick Pitchler and that blue and black car that we are on board with, and João Cardoso in the yellow and black car trailing him. And I'll tell you what, as I look back on top from the back of Patrick Pitchler's car, I have to admit, I really love these MP4s. The look, they're just beautiful cars, and McLaren just makes a gorgeous sports car.
I have to say that I agree with you. It's also got a lot of grip. It's got some downforce as we see Kadosha close up now on the exit of turn 7. They're going down to the chicane now. What can Kadosha do here? The draft will start to kick in about now, and you'll see how he closes up. Patrick Pilcher immediately goes defensive, Joe, to protect that situation. Goes back to the regular line and then takes the corner. What can Kadosha do now? They come out of the chicane through that very heavy or high crest and then go downhill fast into the final turn, cross the start-finish line. He's right on the back now of Pilcher. He has a little bit of a bobble there.
He took a little bit of a look and decided to back out of it, it looks like, and we are still on board with João Cardoso now hopping over that curve of turn 3, now winding around 4 into the S's. Drops back a bit after that, but he was very close for a moment. He's having looks here and there, and I think it's going to be a very tough job for Patrick Pitcher, not only to keep him back, but to handle this pressure from what he knows is an incredibly fast driver behind him.
Yeah, there's no question. João Cardoso is feeling him out now. They come out of 7 once again. They go, oh, nice exit from Pilcher there, or from Pitchler, I should say. But Cardoso will start to get the draft. Pitchler will go defensive again, no doubt, unless he thinks he's got enough of a gap to stay on the regular line, which he does now. Then he goes defensive because here comes Cardoso on the outside, and Pitchler goes back to the regular line. They come out of the chicane once again. Cardoso right on the bumper of Patrick Pitchler, and now he is probably got an opportunity if he can capitalize here. Going into 1, will he try? Yes, he does, Joe.
He's just not close enough, though. Could not outbrake him and has to back out of it. And wisely, Patrick Pitchler knew that there wasn't an opportunity. He gave just a little bit of space, but took his mostly normal line. Meanwhile, Cardoso absolutely blasted through 3 there and is all over the back of him still. That was a great run through that corner, and it's paid off. And look at this. He's got a really good run coming out of 5, but Pitchler got just as good of a run, and so he keeps him at bay. Coming into 6, he's going to stay in line. He knows that he's got a better opportunity. He's got to really focus on this exit out of 7.
This is it, Joe. This is, you can see the attitude of his car. He is trying everything. Now, no doubt Pitchler will go defensive once again because he's very close now and the draft has not kicked in yet. What can he do? He's staying on the back of him now. He goes to the outside. Has he got enough to pass him? I think he has. He might just have enough to beat him into the chicane, which, wow, look at Pitchler. Unbelievable late braking or no braking from Pitchler there.
But look at the smart move from João Cardoso. I think he braked a little bit early. He tried to get the over-under, but didn't have quite enough as they come through that final corner. And Pitchler is off. Pitchler is off. He keeps it going with all 4 wheels in the grass. Amazing stuff from both these drivers. These guys are driving at 10 tenths out there.
Absolutely, and bear in mind, this is after 2 hours and 42 minutes of racing. So they go through 3 and now into the S's once again. João Cardoso determined to make that move. He almost made it work in the previous lap. Can he do it on this lap? Let us see. They go through 5. They use the regular line, although Pitchler's having a very, very wide MP4 there. But now they come out of... Oh! He was right on the back. He had to actually brake hard there not to hit him. And so he's lost some time there. And we also have an HPD coming through. So that's going to mess things up a little bit for them. He won't be able to do it on this lap, but he will have some more opportunities, Joe, because there is still better than 15 minutes left.
Yeah, and that was Robert Tinsey, our overall leader and C1 leader, that was coming through there. And I think he was playing mostly patient. He knew he doesn't have anything to worry about because he's got a 20-second lead over Mark Muckey, which isn't as big as it used to be, but still a fair gap. And yeah, look at the time that Cardoso has lost compared to a lap ago. It's so tough for him. It seems like he just cannot catch a break with the traffic to try and get an opportunity on him.
Well, he did have that one opportunity, but kudos to Patrick Pitchler. He made a brilliant entry into the chicane there and took away the opportunity that Cardoso had. But now Cardoso is back on the rear of Patrick Pitchler as we see a car moving out of the way there. That was Robert Albert. Good driving from Robert. And now the battle is on once again. There's no gap at all at this point in time coming out of 7. Pitchler, I must say, drives brilliantly. He is equal to or just as fast as Cardoso, but only in different places. Now the draft kicks in. Cardoso goes to the outside once again. Has he got enough to pass him? It looks like he has. What will Pitchler do?
Oh, they touch!
Pitchler! That is uncalled for. Totally uncalled for. I have to say, and this is just my opinion, but I am very disappointed by that, Joe.
We're gonna go to replay. I'm trying to see what exactly happened there. It's a very tough call because Cardoso started to drift away from the right side of the track, and I think Pitchler was holding his line as far to the right as he could. Then we're watching on replay right now. You'll see it's. I'm not sure if we'll see it from this angle. Yeah, you can see it just drifts ever so slightly, and that touch was all it took. And João Cardoso, I think he's exiting out right now. Yes, he is off the course, so his day is done, unfortunately.
Yeah, how disappointing is that? And I apologize if I jumped the gun there a little bit. It did seem as if Pitchler moved into him, but I had a different view from probably from what you guys had. The fact is that if you get a touch on that left-hand corner of your car, you're going to get turned. There's no question, and that is exactly what happened. And of course, Pitchler was able to continue. Very disappointing finish to one of the very exciting battles that we've seen in this race. In fact, probably the most exciting battle, Joe.
Yeah, that would have been such a beautiful cap to this series, which has usually been very clean and very competitive. And I think no harm from Patrick on that one, as we watched the replay on board, and he definitely seemed to hold his line. The question is, how much damage did he get from that? He does have his teammate Tom Valentini still behind him, and with João Cardoso exiting out, I'm not sure exactly where this puts him. I think he should still get those points for 4th place, where he's sitting right now. Richard Albert's going to pass him by. Lobsang Jordan, I think, is going to overtake him in terms of laps with 13 minutes left, and possibly Dirk Fetterman. So I'm not sure. I'd have to get some information on the points and how exactly that's going to work. Hold on, I've got some information. And it sounds like we're hearing that João has said that it was in fact his fault. So João has admitted fault in that incident.
Well, look, just a correction there. João has not exited. He has taken a tow. So he may well be sitting in the pits waiting for the tow to be completed so he can get back in the race. There's still enough time for him to pick up a 4th, or 3rd or 4th place, depending on where he comes out. But the 3 teammates of Pilcher, Valentini and Olmensberger have all passed him. Whether he can stay ahead of Ricardo Albert, that is the question.
Yeah, we're kind of debating to see if we want to actually talk to João before the race is over. Not sure if he's going to try and get back out there, but we'll see if we can send Brian Corwin over there to talk to him to see if he's ready to talk, since he's going to have to possibly get some repairs there, and we could talk to him before we finish up here. We've got 12 minutes left before the checkered flag comes, and you can see, I think, is that Andreas Olmensberger, actually?
Yes.
Really
yes,
close on the back of Tom Valentini.
That is correct. Tom Valentini is in the 2nd position now, behind Pilcher, and Olmensberger has caught up a lot of time on Valentini, and this is developing into a battle. Whether indeed it will be a battle, these are teammates, whether they are happy to just finish in this order or not, we shall see. But right now, there certainly is very little distance between the two.
Yes, let's keep an eye on this, and I'm also keeping half an eye on David DeRoche and Manuel Sanchez, because those two have closed the gap. But meantime, We need to give João Cardoso just a couple minutes. Apparently, all that racing, this is another thing we haven't touched on. He needs to use the restroom, and I can understand that one after a long race. So we'll give him just a little bit of a break, and hopefully once he comes back, we'll bring him in to talk to him on air before we close up and get his thoughts on what has gone down. But look at this battle between Sanchez and DeRoche as they go by a lapped car of a C3 class there, and DeRoche now having Sanchez trying to close in down the backstretch.
Yes, and once again, Joe, the excitement of these sorts of races after 3 hours. You have guys that
I'm sorry, we have to switch to Tom Valentini. He just had an off coming through the S's, and he's got a cut course, I believe, that he has to slow down. This has allowed Andreas Albensberger up into second position.
Well, there you go. An easy way to get a position. Now Valentini has to either battle with his teammate to get the position back, which I can see that he might want to do, because these two are very close in the points, or are they? 139 and 163, so not all that close, but still worth an attempt. Now, getting back to the other battle, do we want to go back to that one, Sanchez versus DeRoche? I think that this battle is worth watching, Joe, because it's a developing situation with something like 10 minutes to go in this race.
Absolutely. A quick side note, Hayden Burns was black flagged for dive bombing on lap 303, or on lap 134 on car 303, and I'm not sure who that is exactly. I'm trying to see. Must have been contact made somewhere in there, possibly. I'll double check on that. It was a dive bomb on Valentini, so that must have been what sent Valentini off track that I missed.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. He was coming through, and he kind of did dive bomb him, and maybe a little bit of inexperience driving there. But I want to get back to this battle, because that gap has visibly closed between Manuel Sanchez and David DeRoche. Meanwhile, we should make mention of the fact that Stefan Overgaard continues to lead this class, and is in fact something like 9 seconds ahead. So these two are actually catching Stefan, but I don't think there's enough time for them to catch Stefan, unless Stefan has a big mistake. But looking at Stefan at the moment, he's traveling pretty well. So back to the battle. Sanchez, as they come through the S's now, Sanchez right on the back of DeRoche. They come through 5, and they both get a good exit. Perhaps DeRoche got a slightly better exit there. They come now into 6. Sanchez, nice exit there. Big braking from DeRoche there, and now the draft should kick in, Joe. We do have a battle going on here, no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's pulling him in down the backstretch. I don't think he's going to be able to get anything, though, because he's not close enough. I want to talk to João in just a second, but I want to see if something happens this time by, since this is a passing zone. And no, it looks like he's just going to stay line astern. So we'll keep half an eye on this. But João, you've had a fantastic battle brewing between you and Patrick there, and I understand that you've admitted that you were slightly at fault on what unfolded.
There's no slightly about it. That was 100% me. It's actually, I kept making the same mistake throughout the race, which was the left-hander after the S's. Coming out of it, I kept not realizing that Mark Mucky was behind me, and I would squeeze him a little bit. Then I would go, oh God, and move over. And about 3 seconds before the crash, and I think that's why the crash happened, I realized, oh, that's right, it only happens with Mark because his car's green, and I can only see green grass on the rearview mirror. And as I was thinking this, I didn't realize that I drifted over, or rather that I didn't turn as the road turns right there, and I slammed straight into Patrick. That was 100% me.
Well, it's very sportsmanlike of you to admit that sort of fault, and that brings me to my next question, which is: after that much time of racing, was it making it difficult to focus that hard on that battle and stay in it?
Oh, absolutely. The time just piles up, and you make more mistakes, which in a way is a good thing. I mean, I was kind of you guys realized I was kind of getting desperate there, because at this track, if you cover the inside going into the chicane, you're fine. Either the other guy has a massive speed advantage, which of course I didn't, or you're fine. But I thought maybe I could make the move, because by this point we were all making mistakes.
Yeah, and that's understandable, being so tired from all that driving. Well, thanks for coming and talking to us. And I guess I'm trying to figure out, do you know what the point situation is with how you're going to finish in this? Does this mean the championship for you?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna have to. I think it might depend on how many laps the cars behind me do, whether they pass me. Uh, it's gonna be close till the end.
That's for sure. It looks like you are sitting in the position you will be, which is that is going to be seventh for you, with Diogo not being able to put any more laps in. So we'll see what it looks like. But again, thanks for talking to us and commiserations.
Thanks, guys. I hope you had fun. I did, certainly.
It's been an exciting one for us up here as we continue to watch this battle between Sanchez and DeRoche. This is for second and third. Just a quick update since we've got about 5 minutes left. Robert Tinsey leading by 18 seconds in the C1 class. Stefan Overgaard leading
Whoa,
in
Robert
C2.
Tinsey off track there as we mentioned his name, coming out of 3. A big bobble from Robert Tinsey there, but he managed to catch it. Brought it back online, and he continues on. But that was unbelievable, and well, it wasn't unbelievable. After 3 hours of racing, what do you expect? You are going to make mistakes, as João Cadosha pointed out.
Yeah, that is a heart in your throat moment, especially leading. Not, he's got 17 seconds, which is comfortable. But if he gets damaged, he's not going to be able to hold that off for 4.5 minutes. So I don't think he really wants to be touching the wall this late in the race after having such a good one. So Robert, just hold on out there, and you've almost got this thing. Just 4 more minutes. Got to keep those mistakes away. Got to be running at probably 8 tenths this time at this point in the race for him to be able to keep from pushing his car too hard. But even that can sometimes force errors out of you if you're not pushing all the way. Sometimes that leaves you out of your comfort zone. It messes up your braking points, your acceleration points, and your turn-in points, Richard.
Absolutely. The moment you try to slow down and race conservatively, you put yourself at risk, because when you focus and when you as he comes up on the back of a slower car, one of these C3 cars, which he has to take use patience with, take some time to get past him. That was Diogo Falconer. He gets past him now. He's coming up on the back of Tom Valentini, who, by the way, is battling very hard with Andreas Olmensberger, and he's trying to catch him and pass him as they go down the back stretch. And here comes the yes, he's passed safely. Thank you. And coming back to Robert Tinsey, this gentleman has done such a beautiful job here today, and we take our hats off to you, Robert. Let's hope that you finish this race in style, crossing the finish line with your car as immaculate as it has been all day.
Well, meanwhile, we could see on our screen just behind him, Tom Valentini did complete the pass on his teammate Andreas Olmensberger, which slots him back up into second place.
Good driving from Tom Valentini. Andreas has had an eventful race, I would imagine. He's been on and off. He's been up in first place at one point in time as well. And now he finds himself in third place. As far as the championship goes, he and Andreas and Patrick have all been behind João Cadosha in the championship. João may or may not still win this thing. Patrick Pilcher's got the best chance of taking that honor away from João. Patrick Pilcher continues to lead this race, and I must say Patrick has driven immaculately as well.
Yeah, especially considering the pressure that he was put under by João Cardoso, and managed not to crack, managed to keep his focus for the 2.5 hours that he needed, and just needs to do 2 more minutes more, rather, I should say. And actually, I'm thinking we might be able to get a sense of how many more laps we have to go with 1 minute and 50 left. Looks like we should have 2 more laps to go, because Robert Tinsey is coming across the line right now. In 1 minute 12 laps for these HPDs. I believe, if my timing is right, we should have this one and 1 more. So white flag, hopefully next time by.
Well, and that will complete 3 hours of endurance racing, Joe. This is possibly one of, excepting for the Indy 500 that we did, this is one of the longer races that we've broadcast. it has been an exciting race, I must say, and to see these guys battling so hard after 3 hours, I take my hat off to every single driver who's left in this race.
It's inspiring. I mean, I've done endurance races myself, and I actually don't think. I'm trying to recall if I've done a full 3 hour race, and I don't think I've gone that long. It is really well. No, I take that back. I haven't done it on the roadside. I've done oval races that have gone about 5 hours before, but not. It's a different beast doing it on an oval race. Meanwhile, that battle between David DeRoche and Manuel Sanchez has gone away just slightly, as there was a mistake from Sanchez in trying to chase him down. Robert Tinsley has announced that he has got the white flag. So this is it. Final lap after 3 hours of racing, 15 seconds between himself and Mark Muckey. He can pretty much cruise this thing home.
Yes, but he is coming up onto the rear of Hayden Burns, trying to put a lap on him. Hayden Burns is already a couple of laps down. If I were if I were Robert Tinsley, this is the point. There's a lot of traffic in front of him where I would just back it down. You don't have to drive at 8 tenths. If you drive at 5 tenths, then you're certain to be able to control the car. I think 8 tenths is too slow. You either want to be going at 10 tenths or 5 tenths. So back it down, Robert. Just cruise it home. There's nothing, nobody can get to you right now. But, knowing a racing driver, he's going to take every opportunity to overtake another car. As he does, he passes Hayden Burns for the third time. And he's coming home, Joe, so I'll give it back to you to call the finish.
Yes, just a few more corners now through the chicane. Robert Tinsley, after 3 hours, is very, very clear of trying to have to fight anybody else as he comes across the line. Second win for Robert Tinsley in the final round of the first season of EnduroPro Series. Behind him, Patrick Pitchler is coming up to take another win for himself as well, with just a few more corners. In the C3 class, he had to really fight for it. He's got his teammate close behind, but it's going to be, in fact, a 1-2-3 for Pure Racing Team. But Patrick Pitchler is on top in his class. Meanwhile, Stefan Overgaard, he's got 2 wins under his belt. He won the first one. It looks like he is going to win the last one as Stefan Overgaard comes across the line and wins in the C2 class in the final round here today. So great stories for all 3 drivers who have won today. Very hungry drivers as guys continue to finish off. Where is everybody going to finish? Actually, Manuel Sanchez,
second place, baby.
How did that happen? I'm not sure if we could get a replay of that. Maybe we'll have to do it a little bit later. It looks like he did it into the chicane, the last possible chance for him, and he made it happen. Great stuff from Manuel Sanchez. Disappointment for David DeRoche, although still a podium. So we've got a few drivers still finishing up, and we just watched the replay of the tail end of that, and we're going to rewind just a little bit. And we're actually going to get to see them go all the way down the backstretch. I think after this replay, we'll head to break. Then we'll come back with some interviews and unofficial results. Here he is heading down to the braking zone. He's very close. He knew that this was his only chance. He actually faked for it. Excellent stuff. Textbook out braking into it, holds onto it, and there's no answer from poor David DeRoche. Has to settle for third. As you can see them now heading across the line to finish the race. Great stuff all the way to the finish from these guys. We are going to go to break. And as I said, come back with interviews and unofficial results. So stick around. It's the last race of the season. We get to hear drivers' thoughts. Welcome back to Road Atlanta, the final round in the first season of the EnduroPro series, and Robert Tinsley was able to come out on top in the C1 class. Mark Muckey took second place, Nicholas Pomerade finished third. In C2, Stefan Overgaard took his third win of the season. Manuel Sanchez finished second, solidifying his win in the C2 class championship. And David DeRoche came home third. Patrick Pitchler took the win in C3, Tom Valentini in second, and Andreas Almensberger third, making it an all-pure racing team podium in C3 class. Impressive stuff from those guys. We do have, we also have to hand out the driver of the race, and for me, I think it needs to go to Manuel Sanchez for that last lap pass, and an excellent work from starting from the pits all the way into second place. Incredible stuff from him. And that is brought to you by D Designs, and the podium is brought to you by Sim Seats. And actually, our information is saying Robert Tinsley is the driver of the race. We apologize. We had a bit of information wrong there, and now it's being updated to Manuel Sanchez. So maybe we'll give out two of them today. We'll see. Meanwhile, let's go through some of the interviews. First up, we have Robert Tinsley, our overall winner and C1 winner. Let's bring him in here. And Robert, this is your second win of the season, but I guess this one has to be a little bit special because now we got to watch it on air finally.
Yeah, very true. It was awesome. Thank you.
Well, you ran a pretty good race there. It wasn't completely immaculate. We saw an off or two there along the way. What were you thinking when you saw that João Vaz was out of the race? Did you relax a little bit, or did you buckle down and work all the harder to make sure that you could take it home in first?
Oh, when I saw you left, I did about 5 fist pumps in a row, I think.
You definitely had to at least keep on your guard. It seemed like traffic was a huge issue throughout the day today.
Yeah, but it makes it all more interesting. It was such a great race. I want to thank Mario, Mark, and Simon for putting on such a great series, and of course you guys for such a great broadcast.
Well, thank you, and thanks for putting on a great show for us today. Again, congratulations on your win. It was well earned today.
Hey, thanks a lot. See you guys later.
Next up, we have Stefan Overgaard, and I believe Brian Corwin is going to ask him a question or two. Let's pull Stefan in.
Stefan Overgaard, how do you hear me? Stefan, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Stefan. So congratulations on your win today. You won Daytona and also Road America. So today must be even better, with a 3-hour race. How do you feel right now?
Very tired, and my left arm and left foot hurts very much.
Tell us a little bit about what it feels like to do a 3-hour race. I know you had a mistake early on, which ended up costing you the lead for quite a while, but you were able to fight your way back, and obviously you're hurting now. So tell us a little bit what that feels like.
Yeah, that first mistake, I was a bit nervous at the start. So, but then I had some clean air and could take it more casual after that. And then, in the end, I got the win through the pits.
And what exactly hurts? Explain that to our viewers. I mean, a lot of people play video games for long periods of time. With 3 hours in a sim racing machine against drivers at this caliber, that's a completely different kind of stress and tension on your body. What's hurting the most right now?
Well, it's you sit with your muscles strained, just hovering over the brakes, and you have to remember to relax down the straights, and I kept forgetting that, so that's why it hurts.
Well, you were able to pull up the win despite being in pain and also being tired, so congratulations, Stefan. It's always good to see you on the podium, let alone with a win, so hopefully you can come back next season and show these guys how it's done. Thanks again for talking to us, Stefan.
You're welcome.
And you can hear that some of the drivers are quite tired after 3 hours. We were going to talk to David DeRoche. He kind of ducked off on us. David, I don't know if you're watching, but we'd love to have you back and just get your thoughts on that finish there. But in the meantime, we're going to talk to Mark Muckey. And Mark, it's 6th to 2nd is no mean feat. You really kept out of trouble and had great pace today. and also looked like you had a good battle or two along the way.
Yeah, I think I could have really ran with Robert, but I missed my pit limit button, or I hit it twice, and I speeded on pit road on the first stop, and that's pretty much all it took. And then back to fourth, and then just kind of ran hard from there. Kind of reeled in Robert a little bit towards the end, but I don't know if he was lifting or not. It was a good race, though.
He certainly had mistakes. He had an off in turn one, interestingly, with about 8 minutes to go. So I'm sure he was at least worried about keeping you from gaining too much ground. It's been a great season for you. You've got at least one win in the bag and a ton of podiums. What are your feelings about next season? Do you think you can maybe get some more wins?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to if Vaz doesn't crash out. I don't know what happened to him. I didn't get to watch the replay yet, but he's in a league in his own, and I can run with Robert. I can run with Iker. They're a little bit quicker in qualifying, but I think I've got good race pace.
Yes, you did an excellent job out there today, and again, congratulations on second place. You did a fantastic run today.
Thanks, guys. Good job on the season.
Well, I don't see DeRoche back with us, but we do want to talk to one more person, and that is the organizer of Mario Beaudry. And we're going to ask him just a few questions before we sign off here. Mario, one season now completely done. Are you ready for a little bit of a break?
Indeed. That season took a lot out of us. So now it's summer and we'll be able to take a break finally.
Well, even though we had a bit of a slump in participation halfway through the season, it ended on a great note here. This was, I think, a great race out there, a lot of competition. And I understand you guys are implementing something new to the whole driver situation next season.
Yes, exactly. Driver swaps are coming pretty soon to iRacing, so we can't be in endurance racing without driver swaps.
Well, I look forward to that. That's going to add a whole new element and a lot of unpredictability out there, that's for sure. Thank you so much for having us. It's been a joy being up in the booth, and we look forward to having another season with you guys.
Well, thank you to everyone, especially to you guys at GSRC. I mean, you've been working very hard to bring in a good product, and I want to thank you, all the drivers that race with us this season. A big thank you to all.
Excellent stuff. Thanks for coming and talking to us, Mauro, and we look forward to talking to you in a few months' time again. And as we wrap up, let's thank a few people before we go. Obviously, thanks once again to SimSeats, that's sim-seats.com, the official sponsor of the EnduroPro series for this first season. Don't forget to check them out. Once again, thank you to Mario Beaudry and Marc-Andre Povin for the endless hours that they have put in to get this league to work and operate. Also, thank you to iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio Technica, and AverMedia. They are the software and hardware that we use to make these broadcasts possible. Thanks to the team today, Giancarlo, Richard, and Brian. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter, as we mentioned, at GSR Channel, and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. Thanks goes out to Doug Beard, who creates all the camera sets for the Global Sim Racing channel, and a special thank you to Eric Ekholm, whose music is not only found here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric where you heard it at ericekholm.com. Additional thanks to Casey Lalonde, who also provides us with the music for our broadcast. You can find more of his music at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com. Our next broadcast is going to be at the VSRA at COTA. That is going to be Sunday, July 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern. That is the final round in that series, so don't miss that one. Then we switch to oval racing with the ASRS at Iowa, Wednesday, July 9th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Then we've got the iSuper Speedway Series at Talladega, Friday, July 11th at 10 p.m. Eastern as well. And of course, the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series heads to Watkins Glen, Saturday, July 12th at 10:30 UTC. And don't forget, Champion Motorsports has a race at Zolder That'll be Wednesday, July 16th at 9:45 Eastern. And of course, the USCSR is at Phillip Island, Sunday, July 20th at 6:45 p.m. UTC. And then finally, the Northwest Majors has their Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis, Sunday, July 20th at 5:45 p.m. Pacific. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.